What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm absolutely honored to introduce you all to ritual abuse and mind control survivor, overcomer and thriver, Bob Marley's biological daughter, loving mother, content creator, serial entrepreneur, artist and visionary, writer and author, Grammy Award winning songwriter, podcaster, educator and avid learner, sound bowl lover and healer, and a woman on a mission to blind the darkness with her light, Zara Marley. Zara's early life, shrouded in the complexities of her claimed and proven Marley lineage, was marked by trauma that began in childhood. She was thrust into a sinister world of organized abuse, orchestrated by sadistic abusers embedded within the music industry and others in close proximity to her. She's experienced sadistic and satanic ritual abuse firsthand, a harrowing reality that included secret tunnels, coercive initiations, and the exploitation of vulnerable souls. These experiences, which link to high-profile figures and systemic corruption, were designed to break Zara's spirit and to silence her voice. Yet even in the face of such darkness, Zara's inner light, a spark she attributes to her father's legacy of resilience and Rastafarian faith, refused to be extinguished. As the biological daughter of beloved reggae legend Bob Marley, Zara carries the weight of a legacy steeped in music, love, and revolution. Yet her journey diverges into a darker, lesser-known path, one of survival, healing, and fearless whistleblowing. As a survivor of satanic and sadistic ritual abuse, Zara has transformed her pain into purpose, emerging as a warrior for truth, a protector of the vulnerable, and an inspiration to countless survivors. Through her upcoming book, Reclaim Your Soul, and her candid interviews, she shines a searing light on the underbelly of power and corruption, all while embodying the unyielding spirit of her father's call for justice and liberation. Zara's journey to healing began when she confronted the fragmented memories of her past, a process that required immense courage and spiritual fortitude. Drawing on the principles of unity and resistance that her father championed, she embarked on a path of self-discovery, piecing together the truths of her experiences. This journey led her to author the book we just mentioned, Reclaim Your Soul, a book that promises to expose the music industry's darkest secrets while offering hope and guidance to survivors and victims of abuse. Through her writing and numerous other projects aimed at helping elevate humanity, Zara transforms her trauma into a beacon of empowerment and hope, encouraging others to reclaim their agency on a soul level and break free from the chains of oppression. As a whistleblower, Zara's voice is both profound and provocative. She has spoken candidly about her encounters with industry giants, including discussions with Sean P. Diddy Combs about the spiritual toll of his initiation into elite circles. Her revelations about secret tunnels and their nefarious purposes have sparked intense discussion, challenging listeners to confront uncomfortable realities about power and control. Yet Zara's mission extends beyond exposure. She is deeply committed to helping survivors heal, offering them a lifeline through her advocacy and support. Her work resonates with those who have been silenced, providing a platform for their stories and a vision for a world free from exploitation. Zara's connection to her father's legacy is not just familial, but spiritual. While her father's music uplifted the disenfranchised through reggae's rhythmic rebellion, Zara's activism takes aim at the systemic forces that perpetuate abuse, making her a modern-day warrior in the Marley tradition. Her courage to speak out despite the risks mirrors Bob's own defiance in the face of political violence and oppression, as seen, for example, during his performance at the Smile Jamaica concert just days after surviving an assassination attempt in 1976. Today, Zara stands as a living miracle, a woman who has alchemized pain into purpose, fear into fortitude, and silence into a resounding call for change. Her upcoming book and ongoing advocacy work promise to inspire a new generation of truth seekers, while her unwavering commitment to survivors underscores her role as a selfless servant of healing. Zara's life is a reminder that even in the darkest corners, the human spirit can rise, unbroken and unbowed. As she shares her story, she beckons the world to listen, to question, and to join her crusade for a future where love and justice reign, a legacy that dances in harmony with her father's timeless reggae hymns, echoing hope across the ages. Before wrapping up the introduction of today's guest, I wanted to share just a couple quick reminders and updates. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, or if you want to share any information privately with me, you can submit, excuse me, or if you want to submit a written testimony for my upcoming book series or to be featured on a Substack article, you can reach out via email at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com or standbysurvivors@protonmail.com. Additionally, I've teamed up with a couple of my favorite brands to offer you guys exclusive discount codes on products I love, such as Rife Technology frequency machines and CZTL's premium methylene blue. You can find all the relevant links and codes along with other resources down in the show notes. Your support across all platforms is greatly appreciated, especially as I've had to shift to alternative streaming platforms such as Rumble and X following the termination and censorship of my former YouTube channel. I've just recently started a new YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to me there at the handle at Imagination Podcast Official that I will be rebuilding as well. This transition to multiple platforms is crucial to continue sharing vital information with the public and disclosure communities. Thank you all on the other side of the screen wholeheartedly for helping to make the imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor, whistleblower, advocate, and educator disclosures. Your support means the absolute world to me. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming today's guest of honor, walking miracle, anti-child abuse and survivor advocate, fierce mama bear, survivor, overcomer, and warrior, voice for the voiceless, and my new friend, the one, the only, Zara Marley. Zara, thank you so much for being here with us today. What an honor it is to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. And I think I just need a minute to cry after that introduction. That was very kind of you.
You're so
Really
deserving
touched,
of it.
really touched my heart. Like I'm holding back the tears for real.
Well, I feel that way every time I listen to one of your interviews, and other people obviously feel that too, because the second Sean Atwood, want to give him a shout out for having the courage to talk about all this stuff too. He's a wonderful podcast host if you guys haven't connected with him. But as soon as your first interview dropped, I had several people send me and say, you need to get Zara on. She's so amazing. So obviously you're bringing tears to people's eyes and hope to their hearts. And, people want to hear more from you. So it's wonderful to have you on to get to connect with you. And you have such a powerful voice and you do it with so much love and so much passion. And your ultimate goal, which is so wonderful, is ultimately not your story. It's in using the things that you've learned in your story to help other people. And there's no more noble cause than that, than trying to stop this and preventing it from happening to other children. So with all my heart and from everybody that knows of you so far, and I'm so excited for more people to meet you. Thank you for having the courage to come forward and talk. I know these topics can be really hard, traumatizing, and ultimately they can drain your energy, and also there's a lot of risk involved. So we all really greatly appreciate you and have so much to learn from you.
Thank you so much. I think now we need a, a break. Like you really honor me and I appreciate that. It feels so good to be seen. I think that's probably the most healing part of this journey of mine is when people recognize you and validate you. And I know that with people that I've had to deal with in my life that had not been recognized and had been dismissed and the whole um discrediting thing that they do to victims, when you see them and you validate them, it's just such a powerful healing experience. And I just feel like you just gave me a whole ocean of healing and I'm like ready to just go cry in the other room for 10 minutes and be all refreshed and new. That was it's really good to be seen. Thank you.
You are seen and you're heard, and we're so lucky we get to learn from you. I try to remind people on the other end who are listening, this information society was never supposed to know. It's truly a great honor that we finally get to come to terms and contend with the way our world really is, and to ultimately come together and figure out solutions on how to create a new world, a world without the false reality that they've created, the corruption, the evil. I think you and Sean had said on a podcast, good and evil exist in the world, and we have room for, or sorry, good and bad exist
It's
in the world.
Ron. It's
Ron,
Ron
okay,
saying, and what he says is there's good and there's bad,
yeah,
but there's no room for evil.
that's
And
it.
I
Yes.
love, I'm quoting him all the time on that.
I've heard you a couple times bring that up after he said it, and I was like, that's absolutely true. We there is no room for evil, and in order to eradicate it, we first have to learn about it. And I think that's why your work is so special, because even though you share parts of your story, your whistleblowing isn't focused on sharing your whole story on every episode. You have mountains of lessons that you've learned, of wisdom, of whether it's healing, whether if it's learning how all of this works, and you're going on and sharing about these things that society doesn't know, was never supposed to know, and would never know if it wasn't for people like you. So I'm really excited to talk about some of the stuff today because I think you break some of the stuff down in a way that is different than what's been presented. And I think it can reach a different demographic of people who maybe aren't grasping it, hearing it different ways. And you also infuse it with so much healing and love, which I really appreciate, and compassion. And you always come back to those things despite how dark the conversations go. The solution at the other end from you is never violence. It's never, combating evil with evil. Your solutions always come back to that healing and that love.
If there was a kill 'em all button, I would push it. But the problem is you can't because they're so woven into the fabric of society. And then, you have to get into the whole understanding of the cycle of abuse.
Yeah.
So many of these abusers today, they started out as victims, as childhood victims. So at what point do we break the cycle of abuse and figure out a way to stop it? It's such a complicated thing and it's so woven into every aspect of life. There's no way that you could kill them all. That's maybe something God could do, but that's not something we as human beings can do. Um, and I think that what we can do is instead of um, kind of focusing on them, we have to kind of put up a wall, put them outside of our focus, and we have to start focusing on ourselves. How can I put myself back together? How can you put yourself back together? How can she put herself together? How can he put himself back together? And then how can we put ourselves back together as a community and having, strong boundaries and new content where there's not all the subliminal stuff, higher mind conscious material for our children, for ourselves, because it's a sadistic system that we're in. Um, and we could sit here and talk all day long just about the system itself. The pharmaceutical and medical industry makes money off of our suffering and they keep us in suffering. That's sadism. The education system is not meant to make us smart. It's meant to make us robots that memorize and regurgitate and follow orders. That's not intelligence. Um, they dumb us down intentionally. They should be teaching children about telepathy. They should be teaching children about, higher minded consciousness. Because we're higher minded people, we're higher consciousness people. And then, you have the justice system where, good luck finding any justice there. So the whole system is sadistic. Um, the reason I don't use the word satanic, I mean, to just jump right into it, is because that's a puppet show. And I want to break down their whole system and help people understand how it's a puppet show. But they don't call themselves worshipers of Satan. You might think that they do, but they don't. They actually, the elite of the elite, the ones that are running the puppet show, they call themselves sadists. And a sadist is someone who derives pleasure and benefit from intentionally inflicting harm, pain, suffering, and humiliation. And it works, they're sorcerers, and it works on this kind of magic that they call opposite and equal reaction magic. So for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So if they inflict pain, what they do is they're harvesting the opposite and equal reaction, which is pleasure. If they inflict humiliation, they're harvesting the opposite and equal reaction, which is prestige and honor. So, that's where all these humiliation rituals come in and all the stuff that they do. So they identify themselves as sadists. They're extremely professional. They have been doing it since time memorial. They have scientists, doctors, all kinds of professional people that are studying how to inflict the most amount of pain and humiliation on people. And they put up this whole puppet show, to the world, whether it's in the music industry, the entertainment industry, or even in, religion, about this whole idea of worshiping Satan, and it's it's a puppet show. So I don't say the word satanic, but when I say sadist, it is pretty much the same thing. But I because I was raised by sadists, so and in the satanic rituals when I was a child, to be very clear, after my father died, and my father never abused me. My father was an amazing man. Everything that I'm doing to honor him in his name, and I could talk about him all day long. He was a man of integrity, and people think that he was eliminated because of politics, but that really was not why. He refused to hurt children. He refused to participate in the satanic rituals, and so they eliminated him. But everything I'm doing is to honor him. So when I talk about abuse or this or that, I can't name people because then they can sue me for character defamation, and give me cease and desist order. Now, I can say I'm Bob Marley's biological daughter because I am, and my paternity was proven and it was never disputed, and everyone in my family knows exactly who I am. But the minute I say this one abused me or that one did this or that, then I can't prove that. I have no proof. They make sure you don't have any proof. Nobody walks out of there with proof. So I have to be careful what I say so that they can't shut me up. And that's another reason why I talk about sadism, because first of all, that's what it really is. That is the actual root of what's going on. And sadism is in the diagnostic book of mental disorders, the DSM. And so they can't call you crazy for saying I'm a survivor of sadistic abuse. I survived sadism. But if you say I'm a survivor of satanic abuse, well, then all of a sudden off to the loony bin you go. You're a conspiracy theorist and you're crazy, even though it's so obvious. And they put it in your face. They used to say hidden in plain sight. Well, now it's just in plain sight. I mean, has anybody seen the Pope's funeral? You're gonna tell me that's hidden in plain sight? No, that's just in plain sight. I mean, the mask has fallen, the veil is lifted, and it's so clear everywhere you go that this is satanic ritualistic behavior. But the moment you say it, all of a sudden you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist. And so that's why I use the word sadism and sadist and sadistic, because you can say it and you can be validated by saying it. And that's how they refer to themselves anyway. So let's get away from the puppet show. In my book, Reclaim Your Soul, it opens up with a dictionary of words that we can use instead of, saying words that trigger people, feed the sadists, and discredit you. We have to learn how to communicate these things in a different way so that we can have a conversation without being shut down. And sadism is just everywhere. You don't have to be a survivor of SRA. The whole system is sadistic. We've all been touched and abused in one way or another. So I think everybody can relate to it. And people have been learning about narcissism over the last couple of years, which I think is fantastic because most of these people are not just narcissists, but they use the narcissistic um, patterns of behavior, and so once you are awoken to it, then you can identify it and then you can communicate it in a way that's not crazy making. Like before the narcissists were being exposed, if you tried to talk about what they were doing, people just thought you were crazy. And they do that on purpose. Whether it's the gaslighting, which is to make you question your own reality, or, the moving the goalpost and all these things that they do. So when you try to explain to someone, you just sound batshit crazy. But now that people have been educating themselves and the whole pattern of behavior has been exposed, people now know how to communicate. Well, this is what's going on. And, I'm a scapegoat and this is what happened and blah, blah, blah. And it's all according to, the cluster B personality definitions in the DSM. So you can't be discredited. So we have to do the same thing for sadism and understand that sadism and narcissism are very, very closely aligned. And usually in these sadistic elite people, they're, what you call a dark triad. They have that Machiavellianism. They have the narcissistic tendencies or behaviors, and they are what they call antisocial behavior, which is psychopathy. There's actually nothing in the book of diagnostic disorders that's called psychopathy, it falls under the cluster B personality disorder of antisocial. And it doesn't mean that you're antisocial, like I don't like to go to the movies or I don't like to go to family parties because I'm antisocial. It means against society. So there's the people that write the updated versions of this book, they're actually going to be changing a lot of these things and they're going to be coming up with something for psychopathy because it is a problem and there is a lot to be said about sadism. And when I say sadism, I'm not talking about the mature adults, mature consenting adults who put on their little costumes and have their little safe words and want to have a good time. That's not something I do, and I think it's a slippery slope, but that's not what I'm talking about. When I say sadism, I'm talking about what you consider satanic abuse. I'm talking about people that intentionally inflict harm so they can reap what they consider to be a benefit of pleasure. They're hurting innocent children. They're hurting innocent people. That's not the same as the um, the sadomasochist community of people that, you know, play around with whatever in their little dungeons where everybody's consenting and they have their cute little costumes or whatever. Like, I don't know too much about that. I don't have any like personal experience with it, but I do know that there are people that do that, and that's not what I'm talking about at all. So I don't want it to be confused.
100%. And I'm excited to dive more into this because I think you have such a good understanding of these personality types that we aren't taught about. I mean, you said it yourself, it's not even in medical text. A lot of the stuff that we know, if we're, listening to survivor testimonies and listening to stories of the type of people that are in these different cult systems. So I'm really excited to share what you've learned. But what I want people to know is that although you've learned this on your own volition through your studies and through all the healing that you've done, you also had experiences as a child, as you said, growing up around these personality types, so you've gotten to see this firsthand with this what this was like. So I wanted to share a little bit about you as a person, both the good and the bad. I know your childhood had these beautiful moments with people like your father, but then on the other hand, there was so much darkness around you. So I wanted you to share just what you wanted to or what you're able to about your childhood, and we can talk about your career going into the music industry and all the accolades because you're actually very accomplished. Even if your name isn't splattered all over the people
Mhm.
that you've helped, you've been around a lot of really amazing artists and people who were celebrated. And I want to share that with people too, so they can sort of understand all the different ways that your story interwove you into these circles to where then you now have that knowledge that you can share with us.
So to start out, I was born in 1970. Um, my father is Bob Marley. My paternity was proven and it was never disputed. Everyone in my family knows exactly who I am. Um, my identity was hidden originally because my mother was underaged, but it wasn't a creepy pedo thing. And I say that over and over. People want to turn it into something it's not. Um, my father was a very good man. He didn't take advantage of anybody. And the laws have since changed. If the same thing happened now, it wouldn't be considered against the law. And so, and this has been confirmed by people that knew my father that I've gotten back in touch with over the last couple years. My father was threatened that he would go to jail for statutory, and he was just trying to get his music career going. And, if you get into the story of my father, it's really actually so heartbreaking. And I can get into that. But I was living in 9 Mile for, I don't know, about 6 months, and I was staying in a nun house because the woman who pretended to be my father's wife, her name is Rita, and I can tell you where you can look from other people's testimonies, like Bunny Livingston Whaler and other people that will testify that my father did not marry her. There's also recorded testimony from my father saying that that was not his wife and he did not marry her. And there's also testimony that he was put under an opiate spell of amnesia and given this drug scopolamine, and he didn't even remember marrying her. And there's a lot of testimony of my father saying that himself. She is recorded by many people as being a very wicked woman. And I don't think that I have to say anything negative against her. I think you can just take a look that she has $600 million in the bank and hasn't done anything to help anybody other than herself. And that is not my father's legacy. My father's legacy was not to have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank. Meanwhile, people that help build the platform upon which they make their money are still working in their 70s, or people like me that won them Grammy after Grammy after Grammy, and they made hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't have a dollar for the bus, and lived in absolute poverty most of my life, So I don't necessarily have to say anything bad about her. You can just look at what other people have to say about her. But she basically wouldn't allow me in the house, and she had manipulated my father, and held it over his head that just my mere existence could put him in jail. So my father was controlled in that way. I lived in 9 Mile for some time. I did reconnect with some of my cousins and some of my uncles from 9 Mile that remember I used to share a yard. I was staying in a nun's house. My father used to come and visit me with some of his good friends and some of our relatives, and they all have acknowledged me and they remember me. And then I went to go live in New York, which is where I was actually born and raised. Um, and so I was adopted by my father's second cousin on his father's side. So the Marley name is actually, it comes from Norval Marley, my father's father, who was Jewish, because his mother was Jewish. And so the Marley family is actually white, not black, the original Marley family. So I went to go live on that side of the family, also because I have very light skin. People couldn't believe Bob had such a white baby. I did have my paternity proven when I was a small child, and people say, "Oh, that's not possible. It wasn't made available to the public until the 80s." Well, people with money can absolutely access that technology. Paternity testing came around in the 20s, in 1920, but you had to be someone of money or importance to have it done. And so, my paternity was proven. It was absolutely never disputed. There's plenty of people that remember me. And there's people from uh, 12 tribes that just even recently have come out and acknowledged me, but they have to do it very quietly because some of the people that are in my family are going around threatening people, including elders. I made some videos about it on my YouTube, not my YouTube, sorry, my Facebook. Um, they're trying to keep up this fake one love narrative, and they're trying to control the resources, which is not what my father was about. But they did acknowledge that my father did have a child with a woman that was underage, and everybody in the band thought he was going to go to jail. And so that's what happened to me. Um, and the people that raised me were sadists. And it was not fun to be raised by them. And one of the things I want to talk about, I want to get into, if I go off track, I want you to remember, I want to talk about the subtle um kind of patterns of behavior that they use on people, because there's so many people out there that have been abused and they're still trying to come to terms. They don't understand it because these people are very smooth. It's like those little things where like everyone's in the room and they're all happy, and then the minute you walk in the room, the whole energy changes and they're just like, oh yeah, like they just dismiss you and act like you just ruined the vibe. Like these little things, this is the scapegoating, and this is the setting the person up. The sadists know who they're going to abuse, and they start setting that person up from the beginning, so that by the time that person realizes that they were abused, they've already been slandered, they've already been have a smear campaign, they've already been set up to be crazy so that nobody will listen to them. So I want to talk about all that, but put it aside for now. So I was raised by sadists. They did not treat me nicely at all. And I endured a lot of not just like what people call SRA. That's like, for them, that's their icing on the cake. But you have everyday psychological abuse, emotional abuse, even intentionally, mentally programming your mind. I was told every single day, you're ugly, you're stupid. the woman that raised me used to beat me in my face every day. You're ugly, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're stupid. And here I am, 55 years old, washing the dishes, going, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm stupid. You know, we have to work on these things. We have to reprogram our minds. We have to pull out all of this negative programming and these neural pathways, and we have to heal ourselves. So, the people that raised me were not good people at all. And I don't have anything nice to say about them. Um, but I did get to spend a lot of time with my father. And I was very lucky in that way. I could spend my birthdays with him. I got to travel with him, even though I wasn't with him. I was the adopted daughter of his second cousin. And so I could go all these places and people didn't know I was Bob's daughter, but I got to be with him there. I got to experience a lot of things. And my father was an amazing man. He was just absolutely amazing. He was a very deep thinker. He was a philosopher. He had the ability to open himself up to channel prophecy, but that does not make him a prophet. And when he was asked, "Are you a prophet?" he said, "Nah, man." So I also got to spend time with my uncle Peter, Peter Tosh. He was amazing. He taught me a lot of things that I love to talk about, my experiences. So anyway, my father was basically controlled in a lot of ways, and my identity was hidden for that reason. But then I was with my father in Germany visiting him, and I have spoken to the people that were there in Germany with him. I have reconnected with a lot of people, but then the other people in my family go around and start intimidating them, and so we have to. I don't mention names. People know who I am, um, but I don't jeopardize them. Like I'm just so happy that I've reconnected with good people that I love. I'm not going to throw them under the bus to prove a point. Like on Facebook, people are actually horrible and they're just like, oh yeah, prove your bobs and da da da, and they're just so crazy white bitch. Take your met. You look nothing like him. I'm like, are you looking at my face though? I look nothing. Have you looked at my face? I look nothing like him.
You look
Like
exactly like him. You're like a
my
carbon
siblings,
copy.
my siblings used to tease me when I walk in the room. They go, oh, our father, he's reincarnated as a white woman. It's like, oh, I don't, I look nothing like him. Well, then you're probably looking at the kids that are not my father's and comparing me to them and saying that we look nothing alike. Because you're right, we don't, because they're not his and I am. But never mind. Um, so I got to spend a lot of time with him. I was with him in Germany when he was very, very sick, and he knew, I guess, that he was gonna die. And I was 11 years old, and I didn't really understand then everything that was going on. And he had said that he can't go to jail if he's dead, and my identity should not be hidden. He told me that he had 17 children and that all of us were a part of him and he needed all of us to come together as a whole in order for him to be truly whole. And he put his hands on my head and he was crying and whispering blessings into me and hugging me and crying, and I didn't really understand. He was saying goodbye because I was young, but I get it now. When you look back on things you go, oh, okay, that's what that was. um so he also always talked to me about Jerusalem and Holy Mount Zion. I used to fall asleep on him, like my head was here and I was like laying here and he was holding me, and I would listen to his heartbeat and he would sing to me about Holy Mount Zion, and I would hear his voice through his chest, like the vibration of his voice through his chest while listening to his heartbeat. I have very beautiful, amazing memories of my father. And here I am living in Jerusalem and Mount Zion for decades. Um, he always told me that my inheritance was Jerusalem. So I didn't get any of the family money. I didn't even get any of the money that I worked for and I earned. And that's a whole nother story. I don't have good relations with my family right now. Um, but I got another inheritance. I got a spiritual inheritance, and his blood absolutely runs through my veins. I'm cut from his cloth, and I'm hoping to pick up where he left off and finish what he started.
Was your father at all aware of the darkness that was going on at the same time that he's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Sorry, finish the sentence.
No, yeah, that's pretty much what I was gonna ask. Like, seems like he had an awareness of darkness around him because he knew to say goodbye to you. He probably felt something was happening. Did he or anybody have any idea what you were going through on the other
Well,
side?
yeah, the song High Seas, Low Seas, High Tide, Low Tide, I made that up with my father. And people say, well, how can you make up a song when you're 3 years old? Because I was literally born awake. Like people say you're not supposed to have memories until you're a certain age. Bullshit. I remember being outside my body when I was created, and I remember coming into this world. Some people are just awakened souls. If you believe in such things, I am one of those people. So I do remember the earliest memories with my father. And so somebody had abused me in a not nice way, and I told my father about it. And in that song, it says, "Every child in this world needs protection." I'm the one that said that. I said that to my father. And so everyone in the family knows I made up this song with my father. And then he made me sing it in front of all of my siblings and in front of his mother. And actually, I don't want to get into all the details about my grandmother, but we didn't always get along. She did try to make amends to me in the end, but I was already too bitter for how I had been treated. So my father was aware of what was going on to some degree, but to some degree I wasn't aware because they have this drug called scopolamine. And you guys should look it up because a lot of people are given it and they're not even aware that they've been given it. And this is the stuff that they're using in the industry. It causes absolute amnesia. It severs you from your free will so that you're a puppet. If somebody gives you this drug, whether they blow it into your face or whether they give it to you to drink or in the different ways that they can administer it to you, you just somebody says something and you're just a blank slate and a mindless puppet and you do that and then you don't remember. And they give it to kids while they're sleeping. They blow it into their face so they breathe it in and then they wake them up and they have them in these rituals and then they put them back to sleep and the child doesn't even know. And then they're mixing it with witchcraft and sorcery and they're literally binding you either inside of yourself or outside of yourself, which is this whole disassociative thing that people have. And then they put your memories, they plant them not in the subconscious mind but in the unconscious mind. So right away, and also trauma suppresses itself, especially when you're a child. You have no way to deal with it, to process it. But as you grow older, you start really realizing and feeling like something is really wrong, but you can't put your finger on it because you can't remember it. So a lot of anxiety starts, a lot of, issues, but they know who they're going to abuse. They know who they're abusing. Something that was said to me by one of the sadists that raised me was that I should always remember, that only people who are awake know who's sleeping. So they're awake because they're the ones doing it, and the rest of us are kind of stupid and sleeping, and we have no idea what's going on. So as people start to wake up, they feel something's wrong. Maybe they start to have flashes of memory, or maybe they think it's a bad dream or whatever. There's so many people out there that have actually been abused, and they know that there's something wrong, and they have some kind of intuition about dark things that they don't normally would know about it. They didn't read about it. They didn't, experience it that they remember, but they have a connection to it. So people should look into that drug, scopolamine, and you can detox from it. It buries itself in your nervous system, in your brain. I'm still detoxing from it. So they gave that to me as a child, and I do talk about the tunnels and the inner world. And the house that I was raised up in did have access from their basement. They had, and they also had them in schools and stuff. Like there's all these videos now coming out where people are exposing the fact that there is layers to this world. I mean, it's like everywhere. You have the big military bases with these huge entrances, and they're bringing all the supplies in these huge shaft elevators that go all the way down, and all the different levels of laboratories. And there's so much evidence out there that's been proven. Also, with the Sean Combs case, they uncovered his mansion that's inside the earth. There's other people that are coming out and talking about it. So I personally try to only talk about things that have been proven. Um, because when I was younger and I didn't talk about things that were proven because it wasn't proven yet, you just automatically get labeled as crazy. And, I was absolutely labeled as crazy. I was 12 years old the first time I tried to take my life, and they used it later to say when they took my son from me, Joseph, and they tried to tell. There's plenty of people that know this to be true. They tried to tell people that I was a crackhead, that I was a prostitute, that I have a history of mental unwellness. Meanwhile, I was meditating in ashrams. I was a vegan. I was trying so hard to clean myself and put myself back together, and a greater question is why would a 12-year-old try to take their own life? Something's going on. It's not normal for a 12-year-old to be like, fuck it, I'm out, put my soul outside. I don't need to be here. You know what I mean? So I was hospitalized the first time when I was 12 years old because I did try to take my life. And so they use that, as a foundation to if you ever come out and talk about these things, they go, well, she has a history of mental unwellness. She's, whatever, whatever. So, I think a lot of people experience that. A lot of people think they have mental illnesses, or maybe they do, they have them, but they think that it's their fault or there's something wrong with them when really they were just abused, whether it's from a narcissist or a sadist or, from wherever. And they don't realize how these people are planting stuff in your brain when they're using you in these ceremonies, even when you're not in a ceremony. They're constantly, they have a whole method. It's not random. The first thing they do is to break your ability to trust. And they have all kinds of programs and things they do to just break your trust so you can't trust anybody. Then they get you to doubt yourself, to self-sabotage yourself. They know that eventually they're going to be done abusing you and they're going to throw you to the streets. And this happens to so many people. And they know that you're going to be trying to figure it out because you don't have your memories. And they put seeded programs, not random programs, seeded programs that to self-sabotage yourself, to have a low self-esteem, to make bad choices, to throw yourself away, to have highs and lows, to want to commit suicide. And they're calling demons and assigning demons to people. I personally never got demonized, but I saw people get demonized. I watched people get broken down and demonized, people in my own family, because that's what they do. So between the drugs, the mental programming, and the spiritual warfare, they torture people. People are literally tortured in their mind. And one of the things that I've noticed from, my experience of understanding it all and talking to the people that I was with, it's that there's these thoughts. Okay, so you have the mental program thoughts like I'm ugly and I'm stupid, but then you have the demons that go into people and they don't talk to that person as ha ha ha, I'm a demon and throw your life away. They start talking to the people, I don't want to live, I don't want to live, I'm so unhappy, I'm this and I'm that. And the person thinks this is my voice. It's like a familiar spirit or a generational spirit or something that somebody inflicted upon them and assigned to them, and that demon will torment people. I've watched people just become completely tormented. I know 3 people that committed suicide because they couldn't deal with it. They could not. They also had all these memories of being abused, and they just, they get ripped to shreds. So they break your trust. They program you to hate yourself, to throw yourself away, and then they assign demons and spiritual, unclean, wicked spirits that are very real, that come for the realm of jinn, and they torment people, and so that nobody will ever believe them. If they try to come out, and if they have a memory or they have, whatever kind of experience, nobody will ever believe them. They're discredited. But for me, I have to say that the hand of God was on me. I should not have survived what I went through. And at one point, when I started to speak out about some of the abuse that I was enduring, I was sent away to a school for emotionally disturbed children. And it was a school for the children of the elite that refused to sacrifice, refused to rape. They teach them how to rape. They reward them for raping. It's disgusting what's going on. They have a whole nother education that's going on, and it's a sadistic education. And if you're a child and you're being rewarded for raping and harming people, you cannot grow up to be normal. So for the ones that could not be, that they couldn't break, that wouldn't surrender, they would send us off to these schools. And I spent 2 years in a school for the sadistic elite where we were abused and tortured beyond imagination. And one of the things that they try to do is they just try to break you in every way and inject these demonic forces in you. But the hand of God was on me, and I really do believe that that is what happened because of my own power. What am I? I don't have that kind of power. I was a child, but these demons would just burn up. They couldn't even enter me. They just couldn't turn off my light. And is it my light? Do I have such a bright light, or is it, a divine intervention by the hand of God? And I have to say, God was really with me. God really protected me.
Good. You're a
And
walking
I
miracle.
wouldn't be alive. I would not be alive without God. I have a very deep faith in the Lord. And I don't talk about religion. And I mean, I can. I've studied 10 different religions, but it doesn't matter what religion you are, even if you're an atheist, whether you call it your energy or your vibration, there is something that made you. And that something is more powerful than all of us put together. And that something is holy and pure. And if you can connect with that essence of what I call God, then that's how you heal yourself. That's how you wash yourself clean from all the filth that they injected into you. That's how you reprogram your mind.
And you are a walking example of this in every single way. And just hearing this conversation is really healing and cleansing, and it's amazing to hear how dark your childhood was and then to see where you are today. There's a lot of people out there, survivors of things similar to what you went through or different forms of abuse. And they don't know how to get to where you are. They feel like that can never happen. They're just awakening to all this horrible stuff that they went through and trying to make sense of it, and it's really amazing to see what's on the other side of that hard work, of that discovery, of facing what you went through head on and trying to make sense of it. And then again, to having that undeniable faith that you had that carried you through despite those really dark times. It's beautiful to see where you're at today, Zara.
Thank you. Well, look, I'm not fully put back together. I'm still working on myself. I might
Awesome.
be working on myself for the next 10 lifetimes. But it's a process. And the most important thing when I'm dealing with people that, have been broken, whether it's by sadists or just shitty people, you don't have to be abused by a sadist. You don't have to be a victim of SRA. I mean, the whole system is sadistic. You could just have a jealous sister or a mean mother or, a horrible teacher in school or you know what I'm saying or a wicked friend. We all have our trust broken. We all have places in us where we've been abused and we've been broken. And whether I'm dealing with just, the regular everyday, like Ron says, there's good and there's bad, but there's no room for evil. So in that good and bad, there are bad people. There are people who are pedophilers, but are not necessarily in the sadistic elite. You know what I mean? So whatever your abuse has been, the first thing that the step one, you have to accept that you're a victim. There's a whole brainwashing propaganda out there that I'm not going to be a victim and I'm not going to, uh, go to this whole victimhood. Well, if you deny that you were victimized, you can't recover from it. So accept that you were victimized, even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just from having a bad experience with a partner. You know what I mean? If you were abused, you are a victim. And so the first step is to acknowledge your victimhood. And then from there, you don't want to stay in your victimhood, but you have to acknowledge that you were victimized. And then the second step is to say, well, I'm not what they did to me. I am not what they said about me. I'm not what they did to me. That is not me. They injected their poison into me, and that is not me. I am not what they want me to be. I'm not what they did to me, and I'm not what they say I am. And then the next step is pulling out all this stuff and planting new seeds and having, new thoughts. I'm a firm believer in positive affirmations and mantras, but doing mantras in a language that you understand. You shouldn't be chanting mantras. You don't know what you're saying. You open up energies and you don't know what you're calling in. So for me, I actually had a business for a while called Aspects Consulting, and I was teaching people all of these different things like, 30 years ago. And what you have to do is you have to identify where you're broken and what the bad programming is, because everybody could have something different. So for me, it was I was ugly and I was stupid. So you first have to say, no, I'm not. And that was somebody else injecting something into me. So you rip it out And then in that spot, in that place, in that those, whether it's the neural pathways or in your soul and your spirit, you have to put the opposite. So I say, I'm beautiful and I'm intelligent and I'm kind. So my mantra, my positive affirmations was, I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm kind. I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm kind. I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm kind. Over and over and over. And that's how you reprogram your mind. And then there's people out there like, that are really into the fine tuning of it all, like Dr. Joe Dispenza. Well, we say Dispensia, but I guess you guys say it Dispenza or something. Dr. Joe, look him up. He has really good information about regenerating yourself and the power of your reprogramming your mind. It's on a molecular structure, and I do a lot of work with that and deep meditation and self-awareness, stuff like that. And then you have your energetic body because you're made up of different parts. You have your mental world, which has its own identity and body. You have your emotional uh realm, which has its own emotional body. You have your spiritual body, you have your physical body, then you have the map of your soul, which carries lifetimes of experience and stuff like that. So you have to kind of figure out who you are. You have to get to know yourself. And there's all different levels. You have to heal your mind. You have to heal your heart. You have to learn how to trust again. And believe me, that's the hardest. That is the absolute. I don't know if I'll ever truly trust people. I mean, I have some of the most amazing people in my life that I do trust. I've developed, decades long relationships with really good people. I am so blessed. But trust takes time. Trust, it has to be built. And when you've been broken, you just question everything. Like they have these things where, the good cop, bad cop. They have, uh, you're being abused, especially in some of these ceremonies or some of these inner world activities, or even in the outer world, but in the inner world, they'll have somebody abusing you, and then you'll have like the good person come and act like they're saving you. Oh my God, this is terrible, and I'm going to save you, and they save you. And then they act like they're going to save you and comfort you. And then they turn out to be even a more wicked abuser. And they do that specifically just to break your trust. You can't trust anybody. You know what I mean? And the children of the sadistic elite, they'll become your friends. And you'll think, wow, I have a really good friend. And the next thing you know, they've been lying about you, slandering you, uh, everything that they're doing to you, they say that you're the one doing to them. They flip the script. And so it's like, and how can you trust? I thought you were my friend. Like, why would you make up such serious lies? Like, and then there's the people if you have really powerful families like I did, they would literally pay people to lie about me. So, even now, there's some people in my family that go around and try to intimidate anybody that stands up for me, the elders that remember me, and people that just really want to see me uh, be successful in what I'm trying to do with the charities I'm setting up for the people. And they said, "Oh, she's a mad woman. She's a mad woman. She's crazy." Well, I can pass a psychological, not a psychological test, but I can pass a psychological evaluation that's, let's say, 3 months long with 3 meetings a week, because you can't really like have a really solid psychological evaluation in a couple hours. And I've said to everyone in my family, well, let's all have psychological evaluations because I know a lot of you have already been diagnosed as cluster B personality disorder people and other issues. And so you can say I'm a mad woman. Maybe that would have worked back in the 80s, but now, people are aware, people are waking up. And if we have the right language and we learn how to express what happened to us in a professional language where we can't be discredited, we can't just be called crazy anymore. We have to learn how to express what our experience is without the highs and the lows and the crazy talk and the language and all this stuff. And that's how we win. So, there's people that tried to discredit me. I also was threatened and had bad things happen to me, like everybody has, that really tries to come out. And to this day, I get threatened. I get threatened all the time. People threaten they're going to kill me. They're going to do this. And I'm like, would you like my live location, bitch? Because here I am. Here's my live location. You want to do something? Do something. I'm not afraid of you. God is going to take me when he wants me. And if I've gotten through all of this, I'm not afraid of your little bitch ass. Sorry. That's how I roll. But, like, they do, and there are people that really get their lives taken and they get hurt. And I think that we should probably all have a moment of silence for that poor girl, Virginia, that just got, you know, just lost her life the other day. Like I didn't really know about her or know her story, but Ron and Beverly and Sean and my friend Erica and Nadia, they all told me, and I just, it's just heartbreaking to hear that someone who was so brave to come forward and, speak the truth, to have gone through so much suffering and then to end in such a horrible way. We have to hold a space in our heart for them. We have to have a moment of silence for these people. We have to light a candle. We have to pray for their soul because we're in this together, whether we like it or not. Even if we don't know one another, we're all a part of the puzzle, and I just, my heart is really broken. I don't know her, but I just feel really sad about it, and it's okay to be sad. It's okay to say, I mourn somebody. I'm in grief. I'm grieving someone. I don't have to be, super strong all the time. I don't have to be the warrior all the time. I can put my shield down and weep and just express my emotions without being crazy. We're human beings. We're supposed to feel emotion. We're not psychopaths. You know what I mean? So like they'll try to take your emotions and use them against you. So you have to learn how to regulate your emotions. You have to learn how to express your emotions and find the right words for it so that they can't label you and discredit you anymore.
100%. And you see how embedded this is from such a young age, even in your own story, where you see you battling what Virginia did at age 12, those feelings of, I don't want to be here, I want to take my life. And you hear this over and over and over again with these abuse victims that they start you so young with breaking you down, like you said. And I wanted to ask, when did your victimization and abuse start? What age about
The
in
moment the woman who adopted me picked me up,
your life?
that's when it started. And I actually have a memory of exactly what she did to me.
It's horrific. And how did that kind of follow you and impact you throughout your childhood?
Well, I mean, it was difficult. Um, you know, it's like everything is different layers. So on one hand, I had all these horrible experiences, but on the other hand, I had all this love and attention from my father. And I wasn't raised up in my father's house. So he never had to discipline me, never had to tell me to do my homework, never had to, you know what I'm saying? So whenever I saw him, it was always a good time, a happy time, a holiday, a birthday, a concert, it was always a special occasion. So I did get a lot of love from him, from my Uncle Peter, from other people. I got to meet Ross Plano a couple times. And so I have people that really wove goodness into me. Um, so I think that what I kind of did, how I survived my childhood, was just almost living in a bubble. Just I was very creative. I was writing songs from the time I was a child. Um, I was the family's songwriter. I was my father's little songbird, and I wrote all these children's books, from the time I was a teenager. And I think I just kind of created a perfect world where no harm is done. And I just kind of lived in that bubble. I became a hippie. I was working for the Grateful Dead. I designed the recycling program for them when, in the 80s, when recycling was new law. Um, I was blazing the trail. Like an example, how it all started was Nassau Coliseum, which is in New York. Um, it's a big stadium. So in New York is a law that you have to recycle, but Nassau Coliseum, which is in New York, wasn't recycling. So I was working with Dennis McNally from the Grateful Dead. He was their publicist, and I knew the band, and so um, I wrote up a whole proposal. They got it lobbied through the Manhattan Group, and we got 12 major venues all across America to put up the very first recycling bins in the parking lots, not just for the Grateful Dead, but for all the venues. So I was living out of a blue Volkswagen bus, and I was going to rainbow gatherings, and I was meditating in ashrams all over the country, and I was, staying in state parks, and I was homeless, and so I had this whole like, experience of nature and healing through psychedelics. I'm 100% supportive of responsible use of psychedelics for psychic surgery, for healing. Um, Here in this country, they have a program where they've been studying the psychedelic mushrooms and for the healing of trauma. And there's the twin brothers, Michal and Osher. They were the ones that founded the Mushroom Project, which is the healing of trauma through the use of natural psychedelics, music, meditation, and dance. And they're the ones that put on the Nova Festival. And my daughter used to stay with them. They really helped my daughter. And they were murdered at the Nova Festival on October 7th. So we're still dealing with a lot of loss. Um, it's really difficult. So, but I've been involved with healing using psychedelics and meditation and all of that stuff. So I had a lot of that experience. I kind of separated myself when I kind of got free. I was in this school for 2 years, and that was the just most brutal thing ever. It's a place where they put the children that don't submit, that refuse to participate, in the sadism. And so they send us away and they torture the fuck out of us and they hurt us in every way. And I know 3 people that committed suicide. They just couldn't live with the memories of what happened to them. They just would rather not be here anymore. And so, it's heartbreaking and it's very real. And people are out there just broken, just completely broken with nowhere to turn. There's no psychologists that know how to deal with sadistic abuse. You're automatically labeled crazy. There's judges and doctors and lawyers and police authorities and FBI, and they're all in on it. The sadistic elite has woven themselves, that they're your librarian, your school teacher, your bus driver, they're everywhere. And so how do you get the help that you need? That's why we have to start figuring out a way that we can talk about what happened to us without feeding the sadists. See, they love to hear, you know, if I was to start telling you what they did to me, oh, they're, pleasuring themselves getting off on it. They love to hear our confusion. They love to hear that we're broken. They love to hear all of this stuff. So we have to develop a language, and I haven't done very good today, but develop a way to communicate without showing emotion. I feel like very emotional in this interview. Your introduction was, I was not expecting that. That just cracked my shell right open. So I am a little bit emotional, but it's okay to be emotional. We're supposed to be emotional. We just have to figure out how to express our emotions in a healthy way, in a balanced way. We have to regulate our emotions. One of the things that they do is to get you to be unregulated, with all of these games and all this, sadistic nonsense and all of this gaslighting. They rip you to shreds. They bring you up to these highs and they smash you down to these lows until you just cannot regulate yourself. That's why so many people just look absolutely out of their mind, and they're not. They've just been abused and not given the love and support that they need. So for those of us that have survived and know that we were a part of it and have the memories, you're not going to find very much help in the psychiatric world. I mean, I don't think there's psychiatrists that are trained to really deal with this. Maybe there's some that know how to deal with trauma, but someone that hasn't been through it can't help somebody that's been through it in the way that that person needs to be helped. I'm not saying that they can't be helpful, and I'm not saying don't go to a psychiatrist. I'm just saying that if you really have been sadistically abused, um, you need someone that understands what that feels like to really help you. And that's why we have to be there for one another, because, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of psychiatrists are actually narcissists. And so we have to develop a language that doesn't feed them. We have to remove the power from them. We have to remove the source upon which they feed. Like, I'm sorry if I'm dominating the whole conversation. I said, oh, I like a dialogue, and here I'm going on and on. But there's 2 kinds of people in the world. Okay, listen up. You have the people that are self-sustaining people, like me. Okay, I have my own source. I don't pull energy from other people. I'm not vampiring anyone for their energy. I'm not trying to play with their emotions to get an emotional response so I can feed myself. I'm a self-sustained individual. I deal with my own energy, whether I'm up or down or wherever I'm a self-sustained person. And then you have the people that are what we call empty core beings. They don't have the ability to sustain themselves. They're empty inside. So they're constantly messing with you and trying to get emotions from you and they're feeding off of you. And even if you don't realize it, you have these people that we identify that are basically vampires. You're always exhausted when you're around them and they're just sucking the life and the energy out of you. And so they don't have that root inside of themselves where they're nurturing themselves and they're sustaining themselves energetically. So um I forgot why I'm saying that, but we have to learn how to sustain ourselves, how to regulate ourselves, how to communicate in a way that doesn't be the sadist, that doesn't make us look crazy. And we have to figure out how to be there for one another without triggering one another, without taking advantage of one another. We have to set up very safe and healthy boundaries. Everybody has to figure out for themselves what boundaries work for them. And we have to communicate what those boundaries are. We have to be upfront and say, hey, that's a boundary. Like for me, I'm trying to help people, but I don't want to hear about what you went through. I can't hear it. Like it triggers me. I know what goes on and but there's still a need where people feel like they have to say it. They have to say, this is what they did to me. It's a form of validating. So there's nothing wrong. They're not doing anything wrong. But my boundary is I can't hear about it at all and sometimes I slip up and I start talking about it. And then I realize, whoa, I could be triggering someone. Like, I don't know who's listening to this. I don't want to trigger someone in a bad way where they now become dysregulated. So it's really a community effort. We have to basically everything that they've done to us and everything that we've been through, we just have to throw it away. We cannot fix it. We cannot change it. We're not going to beat the system. It's not going to happen. We have to turn away from it and we have to now say, what can I do to put myself back together? How can I become a healthy person? And then once I have established my own, um, even though I'm a work in progress, at my own healthy foundation within myself, then we can start talking to other people that also have a healthy foundation within ourselves, knowing that we're a work in a process, knowing that we're still healing and going through it, but I'm able to stand alone. And then we have to just start creating sadistic free material for our children, and we have to develop a whole new society of people that are in the healing process that are not unstable within themselves. We have to help one another to get to that place so that we can basically just create a whole new society because we're not going to fix or change that other society. What we can do is we can create something substantial and we can invite people into it and we can share it like with the world. Like that's what the Women's Warrior Table is about. That's one of my podcasts that I'm developing. It's Ruhak Zara Marley's Women's Warrior Table, coming in from the battlefield of life. And we're there to share our experiences about not what happened to us, but how do we protect our children? How do you teach children about sadism without ruining their innocence? You have to teach them about boundaries. You have to teach them about expressing themselves as somebody who's trying to, not all violations are physical. Sometimes people will push you into changing your boundaries. It's a part of narcissism. They soften you so that they penetrate your boundaries. Like a good example would be uh someone is living with me, but and they have a key and I have a key to the house, right? So I don't give up my key to anybody, no matter what happens. If you lose your key, then you should learn to be more responsible. You're screwed. I'm not giving you my key, right? So somebody calls me up and says, "Oh, I misplaced my key. Can you please come and give me a key so I can get home? I'm getting off work and I need to get in the house." And you say, no, my boundary is that I don't give out my key. I'm not coming home till 10 o'clock at night. You get off at 6. That's not my problem that you lost your key. I'm not giving you my key. My boundary is I don't give out my key to anybody for any reason. They go, oh, well, I've been working all day and it's cold and raining outside. So what? I guess I'm just supposed to be outside because you're this weird thing about your key. So they break you down and make you feel like, oh God, I'm really a bad person. All right, fine, I'll just give you my key. Well, boom, they just got you to change your boundaries. So they do stuff like this to get you to change your boundaries. So am I making any sense?
Absolutely, yes. And
So
it's so valuable what you're saying because that's like what people who go through the sadistic abuse, that's shattered from the moment that you're born. You don't have a boundary. Nobody is giving you them. You're not taught a boundary, and then the people around you are not providing those for you. They're constantly breaking them and pushing them further and further. So you
manipulating.
lose your agency of ever having a boundary. And it's amazing that you and others are learning that, and finally being able to say, no, like you pushed me far enough. Like I now have agency over myself, and like I'm never giving somebody the ability to cross my boundary again. Like this is where I stand. It's beautiful to reclaim that.
Yeah, it is. And it's a big part of the healing process. And when I was a child, I was very gullible. I was very naive. I was this free hippie spirit. I was meditating in ashrams. My family, Stephen would come over every Sunday when we were living in New York, and I would be writing all his music for him, and we'd be making up all this music together. And, when I signed contract, he even gave me checks from Tough Gong, $25,000 just for the song Hey Baby alone. I had no place to put it. The people I was living with were exploiting me. They made so much money off of me. I never got a penny of it. I didn't even know. There were times they would say, "Hey, do you want to come and help these people with their rhymes and their words and teach them poetry? Bless up the youth." And I'd be like, "Of course." And then I found out they were charging this person like $10,000, $12,000, and I thought I was just there to help people. So I was exploited. I was taken advantage of. And so I had no place to put the money. I gave it back to Stephen. I said, hold on to it for me, and all the money that you're making for me, hold on to it for me. The day will come when I'll need it and I'll ask you for it. And he was like, of course. Well, that day came and I asked him for it, and he doesn't know how to answer his phone. All of a sudden, he didn't know who the fuck I am, and walked off with millions of dollars of my money and left me in poverty without a care in the world. So never again will I do something and not take immediate credit for it. And a perfect example of that is the Wu-Tang Clan logo. I drew that logo, and everybody in the Wu-Tang Clan knows I drew that logo. There's no mystery about who drew that fucking logo. I drew it, but I couldn't take credit for it because Rita had me so convinced that I was doing the right thing by continuing to hide my identity because my identity was hidden when I was a child because my mother was underage, right? So then after my father died, he said that he can't go to jail if he's dead. My identity shouldn't be hidden. And then, I was young. I didn't, know what was an identity. My identity wasn't hidden in the family. I spent a lot of time with my siblings. But then when it came to the point that I became a young teenager, they convinced me to go along with this whole identity game and to say that I'm not Bob's because if anybody knew that I was Bob's daughter, then they would want to know who my mother is, and then right away they would figure out that she was underage, and then nobody would buy their music. The Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers wouldn't be able to make more music, and even though I wrote their Tomorrow People won them their first Grammy, you know, they're going out eating in restaurants while I was literally looking in garbage for food and homeless, but whatever. God will sort out their soul. So, what had happened was I designed the Wu-Tang Clan logo, but I couldn't take credit for it because Rita had me so twisted up that I was the hero of the family, hiding my identity. And so, Maurice, who was a part of the Wu-Tang Clan, he drew the severed head on his mathematics book, the paper cover, and they were going to use it as a logo, but the RZA was like, no, we need something that's like, a symbol that's easily reproduced so we can make merchandise, shirts, hats, whatever. And so I was with them in the streets before they became the Wu-Tang Clan. And, so I was always drawing stuff, and they were like, Ruhawk, that's my name came from them kind of. They were like, can you draw us something? I was like, yeah, sure. They were still up in the studio recording their first stuff. So I drew the Wu-Tang logo. We made a couple adjustments to it. But I couldn't take credit for it. They knew that I was Bob Marley's daughter. I never told them, but the whole nother story how they found out. Not necessarily a positive story, but so Maurice did not draw it, and he did not want to take credit for it either. He was like, no, I don't want to take credit for it. I didn't do it. And I was like, I know, but I can't take credit for it. I told him, please just, help a sister out, take credit for it because I can't take credit for it. And so Now, where I'm at today, if I do something, oh, you better believe I'm taking credit for it. And now I'm taking credit for all the stuff that I gave away because I was manipulated into saying, oh, I have to hide my identity to protect the family. They don't give a fuck about me. They know that I have teeth that I need oral surgery. They used to drill into my teeth without Novocaine. It was a part of the torture. My teeth are so messed up. They hollowed out my teeth, filled them up with mercury. I have the worst teeth in the world. I'm in pain every single day with my teeth. They know this. They have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank that I made for them, and they won't even help me or my son, who was attacked by the police, and he also has messed up teeth. He needs oral surgery. They won't even give us, the smallest piece of charity. So meanwhile, I'm throwing myself away to be the hero and the defender of the family, and they couldn't care less about me. They couldn't care. So never again will I ever be this naive and think that, because somebody smiles in my face, that they actually care about me. So whatever I do now, I take credit for it. And all the things that I did that I didn't take credit for, I'm taking credit for it now. And if people want to take me to court, they can take me to court. I've said that before. People say, oh, they're going to sue you. They're going to sue you. Yes, please bring it on, because I can prove I'm Bob's and I can prove you're not. And I don't want to fight with my family. They don't want to do the right thing by me. God will sort out their soul. I'm moving forward without them. I wanted to help them. I wanted to pull them through with me into this new era that we're all entering. Our consciousness is raising. The sadists are getting exposed. We're breaking the chains that bind us to these lower vibrations. I wanted nothing more than to save the people in my family that I saw got abused. I saw children turn into abusers, and not because they wanted to. And I think that children that were abused, that got looped into the system, the sadistic system, I think that they absolutely have to have some kind of special circumstances and some kind of help. And I'm not saying that they should get away with bad things that they've done. Like Sean Combs did some really bad things, and he has to be held accountable for that. But when I met Sean, he literally summoned me up to Harlem. I was hanging out at the Firehouse Studio with the Wu-Tang Clan, and he had heard that I was Bob's daughter and that I had went through all this horrible abuse and that I had kind of gotten out of it and survived it. And so he wanted to know if he could ever have a normal life. And so he summoned me up to Harlem. He had his thugs with the boop boop thing, whatever, the checker, to see if I had any weapons on me. And we stood in a vacant lot with his people all around. And he was like, "Yo, Ruhawk." He was like, like, just like bearing his soul to me. He was like, "I don't even, can I ever get out of this?" He says, when I was 4 years old, he told me when he was 4 years old, he was used as a living altar. And I know exactly what that means. That's the most horrible thing anybody in this world could ever go through, especially a child. He wanted to know, what does it mean to have a soul? How do I know if I have a soul? Like, he was desperate for help, but he didn't make the right choices, and he has to be held accountable for the choices he made. But at the same time, we have to recognize that he was a child victim. And even if he dies in prison behind prison bars, there should be some kind of help for people that were victimized as children that want to reclaim their soul. They want to put themselves back together. They want to escape the sadistic system. If we're going to move forward, we can't leave the childhood victims behind, because it's not fair. Because they're drugged into it, they're looped into it, they're videotaped, and then they're controlled. All of these people that you see, whether they're in the music industry or whether they're in the entertainment industry, they've all been drugged, they've all been manipulated, they've all been coerced, and then they've all been videotaped, and they're all owned and controlled. And you can see it. You don't need me to tell you about it. You can see how they all start out so cute and so pretty and so innocent and so young. They just want to buy a house for their mother, and then they end up doing the most demonic stuff in front of the whole world. Like, how did that happen? So until we figure out how to start making some kind of society where we have educated, professional, trained, stable individuals that know how to deal with people that are coming from this sadistic world and this sadistic abuse, that we can help them, teach them how to put themselves back together and heal from it. We have to break the cycle. If we don't break the cycle, we're going to keep staying in it. And so Sean was like, At one point, I have to tell you the truth, he was even crying out. I was explaining to him, well, if you really want to get out of it, you have to stop. You have to repent. You have to feel sorry for the harm that you did. You have to, you have to understand how you were manipulated, where the lies are. You have to recognize the lies. The first lie is that you can sell your soul to begin with. Like, hello, the soul belongs to God. It can neither be bought nor sold. Wake up. You've been lied to. You can't sell your soul. So you have to realize that you've been lied to and manipulated. You have to understand the system and how these people work. You have to develop a language where you can express yourself so that you're not considered to be crazy. And then you have to figure out how to put yourself back together. And then you have to find other people that have put themselves back together. We have to start creating sadistic free content for our children because all the stuff that's out there is totally demonic. I mean, I don't have TV. I haven't had TV this whole time I've been in this country. I've never once had a TV. I've lived off grid for years at a time, no running water, no electricity, no nothing, and so I'm not plugged in. But when I do plug in, it's like, oh my God, how do you not see how completely sadistic and damaging that is for children? So we have to create new content for children that's going to help them grow their brain and understand that they're beings of higher consciousness. Things like telepathy are absolutely normal. We've been cut off and disconnected from who we really are. We have to put ourselves back together as an individual. We have to do the work. Nobody can do that work for me. I can't, there's no magic pill for me to take. I have to just suck it up and realize I was abused. It sucked. They put so much garbage in me. And even though it's not my garbage, I'm responsible for myself. So I'm responsible to take that garbage out and to clean myself. And for me, I have a connection to the divine spark within my soul. That's my connection to God. And I open that up and I just let it fill every molecule of my existence and I let it wash me clean and constantly just letting it flow through every molecule of my existence. And I just keep cleaning myself. And I use the Tibetan singing bowls, which are amazing. And they help you get all of the other energies, all the static energies, all the, whatever it is that clings to you, whether you have generational curses on you and spirits on you, or you just are an empath and you go to the supermarket and you're like filled up with everybody's garbage. However it got there, you could have a jealous neighbor that's throwing evil eyes on you. However, other people's energy got to you, you have to figure out how to get rid of it. The Tibetan singing bowls are amazing because it brings you back to your vibration. It cleans out all the energy that's not yours. So there's all these different healing techniques, and these are some of the things that we're talking about at the Women's Warrior Table, different healing techniques. Recipes for food that don't have aborted fetus cells in them, which I don't know if you know about what's going on with that, all the garbage that the poisons and the stuff that they're putting in us. And to create content, I have like 32 children's books that I wrote when I was a teenager. There's no subliminals, no harmful content for children. We just have to, all of us are a piece of the puzzle. Something my father said, one man can't fix what a million men broke. Nothing's getting fixed because everybody's waiting for one man to come along and do it. And nobody can do it. If my father couldn't do it, and Gandhi couldn't do it, and Martin Luther King couldn't do it, it can't be done by one person. It takes all of us together. We all have to put ourselves back together, whether you just had a mean sister or you're a survivor of ritualistic abuse, wherever you fall out. We've all been abused in this system. We all have something to do to put ourselves back together. We have to figure out what are our gifts, what are our contributions, put ourselves back together, recognize I'm just a piece of the puzzle and we all have something to contribute, something to say, something to build. We have to build our foundation off of truth. We have to put our pieces of the puzzle together and we have to create a whole new society. And even if it's not a society where we're all living in the same place, like for the Women's Warrior Table, we're taking people from all over the world, come and sit at our table. What do you have to bring to the table? And everyone has something to share. So we get educated, we learn something that we didn't know, or we, get reminded of something that we're already doing. And then we share with them what we have to offer, and they go back to their community, and everyone has to take responsibility for their self, their family, their community, and together we will rise up out of the ashes of this whole sadistic system. And that's the only way out that I can see.
Yes. And again, you're an example of this, and it gives people a lot of hope to hear that there's that on the other side and that that's a choice. And I completely agree with you on, I wanted to bring up a point that you said before we were talking, and sort of at the beginning of our conversation, we were talking and mentioned about how we can't just kill our way out of this, right? And with that comes a great point that you just made, where within those people that we're attacking, there are people who would die to get out right now, and they are dying to get out right now. They would give anything to know that if they were to just leave right now, they would be brought and accepted with open arms, with love, and that they could come on and be on the other side of it just like you. And that's what we want. We want to invite all these people and say, hey, look, you fucked up and there's going to be consequences for it. But you could come on this other side and start healing, and you could admit to what you did, you can expose it, and you can become somebody who is good and who makes a change with what you went through. You don't have to stay enslaved. And it's like you said, one of the big problems is people come out and automatically they're written off, they're discredited, they're left alone, they have all their resources and money taken from them, they have their children potentially taken from them, they're targeted. Some people kill themselves, or they have people come after them and try to do that. They have assassination attempts. I mean, your father had that. Like when you deny and try to get away from this system that you were born into and that you were developed into and trained into and all the time that they invested, we don't have a safety net and whistleblower protection for people who come out. But we that's another reason why that methodology and that mindset doesn't work, because yes, there are sadists in there. There's pure psychopaths who get off on this, and those are the people that we need to go after. But within that network, a good portion of those people would love to be in your shoes and would love to be able to heal from what they went through. Just like how you saw that glimpse of Sean Combs. We see the sadistic side of him on our side, but to know that inside of him there's that child in him that wants to leave desperately, that wants to heal, and like he doesn't have that opportunity or doesn't want to give that to himself or whatever is keeping him from that. He
I can
feels,
tell you what it is.
yeah,
What
what,
it is that people are threatened and they're recorded, and so they don't want the world to see the videotape of them destroying an innocent life,
yes.
destroying children in a ceremony. So it's the shame, the humiliation. And if you right now open the door, and you don't even have to admit that you were a bad person, you did a bad thing, but if you open the door just to the people in the music industry and the entertainment industry, I'm not talking about politics or pharmaceuticals or any of that other stuff, just the people in the music industry. If you open the door, you say, I have an island, and in this island, it's a sadistic free zone, and you can come here and be safe, and we have programs to help you heal and put yourself back together. Because most people were manipulated into it. It's a cycle of abuse. And if you were to open the door right now and say, who wants to come and get out of it? You would see a mass exodus. You think these people are happy? You think these people are living a good life? Why? Because they have some kind of luxury? They're not happy. They're miserable people. They're doing horrible things that they probably don't want to do. And then there's the whole subject of when you awaken a child into their sexuality, they become addicted. Most of these people are sex addicts, and they don't want to be. And once you get addicted to sadism, there's people that cannot enjoy the pleasures of life unless they're hurting someone, because they're so broken down and trained and manipulated that they don't know that there's another way. They can't enjoy pleasure unless someone is being hurt, unless someone is being humiliated. And you can heal from that. And if you were to tell them, you have a place over here where you can't hurt anybody, you're monitored, even if it's like a prison, I don't care, it could be a prison, but a comfortable prison, not like a prison where, you're getting, every time you bend over to pick up that bar of soap, you're being abused. Not that kind of prison. The kind of prison where you will be promised safety and you will be promised a program that helps you put yourself back together. And you have to swear completely against all of the stuff that you were looped into and involved in. You would see such a mass exodus. So many people. I think all of them. I think sadism would just collapse if they had a safe place to go.
And so with that, how did you safely leave this dangerous and unsafe situation that you were in, and how old were you? And I know it's hard
Well,
to say like fully leave because these things follow you and you still do go through things after you leave. But how did that, because you seem to have sort of had that mentality from a young age, like you never gave into this and like always rebelled against it. And it seems like from a young age you started to like veer off from it.
Well, I was never in it.
Right.
I was abused, but I never became the abuser.
Yes. How did you
So
get
that
away from the abusers?
I did have to leave children behind. I did that were taken from me, and I know who they are. Um, I did have to give up all of my money and my name and my right and my work, and I changed my name, and I left the country in a way that couldn't be traced, and then I changed my name again, and I just started a new life, and I didn't look back, and I didn't talk to my children about it. They were very young. People had wanted them to get into the industry. They were so cute. They're Bob Marley's grandchildren. They're gorgeous. And people wanted to be models and get them. And I said, oh, hell no, you're not putting your hands on my children. And the ones that I could keep, I, I left. They were very young when I left. I walked away and I didn't look back. I started a whole new life
Oh
because
my.
there was no safe. But look, for me, I don't need a safe place to. There's a different path for people that have become abusers and the people that have just been victims. So I personally stand with the victims, okay? But to the ones that have become abusers, there's a place in my heart that does feel sorry for them. But they have to take responsibility for themselves, even though they were manipulated, drugged, and looped into it, and they're really still victims. They have to take responsibility for themselves. They have to make choices and they have to give up a lot and they have to be willing to do the work to heal themselves. But they can't because there's no safe place for them to do it. Now, my family owes me hundreds of millions of dollars. I never collected a penny from the estate. If they were to actually give me the money that they owe me, I would buy an island or a piece of land somewhere and I would build a facility where people could come and be it would be designed and developed by psychologists, law enforcement, and all kinds of survivors that they could come and they can start the healing process of putting themselves back together. I would absolutely do that. And then hopefully that would catch fire because if you realized how many people are actually looped into this, you would just be shocked. You can't even begin to imagine. It's not just the famous people. It's everybody all over the world. Listen to some of the people that are coming out with their stories. It was my uncle. My mother was a sadist. Da, da, da. They're not famous people. People don't know who they are.
It really is. It's everywhere. And we just hear about it in these little glimpses. And I think another part of the problem is now people, their attention span is so low. There's a lot of effort to try to condense this information into little 1 minute videos and to share. And it still just doesn't like catch on with people to where they realize how close to the fire they are. After I learned about this, I'm sitting there bawling my eyes out, just wondering like who was in the classrooms whenever I was a child that was going through this. And like nobody had a clue because they didn't even know. They were drugged, they were coerced, they were manipulated, they were brainwashed, dissociated. Like who have I come in contact in my life that I just had no idea? And you hear these stories and realize that these children went to school like normal kids. They played sports a lot of times, they had careers, they were put on these paths, they had relationships, like they appeared very normal from the outside. And then on the back end, they're going through horrors that are beyond comprehension, and there's such a misconception of that. People think, especially here in America, I think people, and it's starting to change, but I think before it's always, well, that only happens in third world countries. That only happens in those random cases where, the homeless guy on the street abducts somebody. And it's like, no, the majority of child abusers target children that they know on a very close basis, that they have access to all the time. A lot of times they're trusted by other adults in the child's life. It's not what we see in the movies where it's these violent one-time abductions that are completely unplanned and random. Like you said at the beginning, and I wanted to give you a chance to talk about this before it slips my mind again. You had said, it's strategic. These people choose who they're going to abuse, and there's reasons and methods how they do it. And I wanted to give you a chance to speak on that because you really talk about that in a way that's very palatable for people.
So a targeted individual, usually they're targeted from childhood, and it has to do with the vibration of their soul. They recognize light, and they're trying to put out the light. They're the evil wickedness that is dark, and they're trying to put out the light. So when they see someone that has a light in them, a soul, a vibration. They know right away. We have to target this individual. Targeting isn't just when you're an adult and you become a whistleblower and now they're, using all different kinds of vibrations to penetrate you and hurt you and literally, sabotaging all of your everything that you're trying to do, um, it starts from childhood. And I was a targeted individual. And they slander you. They before you even realize that there's anything going wrong in your life, that you're being abused, before you even have the awareness, it's too late. They've already set up a whole system that you are completely discredited before you even realize what's going on. So by the time you realize what's going on and you want to come out, you want to talk about it, nobody will listen to you because they've been talking about you for over a decade about how you're a crazy person. So nobody will ever believe what you have to say. But now, if we can develop a language and a conversation where we can express what's going on and call them out, not as, oh, you crazy Satanist, child raping, whatever, whatever. If we just start calling them what they are, sadists, and using words that are recognized in professional society, like, in psychology and in law enforcement, then they can't discredit you. Just a couple months ago, there's people in my family saying I'm a mad woman. Do I sound mad to you? You can ask anybody in my life. I have people that have been in my life for decades. Amazing people, doctors of psychology. One of my best friends is a doctor of psychology. Uh, Rabbis in Rebbitzin. Rebbitzin is the wife of a rabbi that have known me like for decades, that have been through the worst parts of my life. I've had, some difficult situations to deal with. They know that I'm not crazy. They know that I'm a very intelligent woman. I'm a very well put together person. I'm a very deeply caring person. I've always been someone in society that tries to help. I volunteered in the fire department. I did, even though I'm a Jew, I moved to a Palestinian village and for 7 years had a organic seedling program where I gave away thousands of organic seedlings and did all kinds of rooftop gardens. And, I've always been someone who contributes to society. So all of the people that had slandered me with lies and tried to discredit me so that if I ever came out, nobody would believe me, their words just don't mean anything because people know who I am and they would hear that stuff and they laugh about it. So I you know, I'm a lucky one. There's so many people out there that right now are on medication that they should not ever be on. And I'm not telling anyone to ever get off your medication, but there's people out there that have just been labeled crazy just because they were abused and they don't want anyone to ever believe them. So there's people out there that are literally destroying themselves instead of healing themselves. And how do you get out of it? You have to you need I'll tell you what helped me the most is a loving, supportive community. And even just like when you gave me the introduction, it's still healing the layers of me. There's layers inside of me because I've been so discredited and so targeted and so like I humiliated. I mean, I found out that I was my family's humiliation ritual. I just thought there was something wrong with me. Like I'm not good enough. I didn't, I gave them all this music, but then there was a time I was literally in the street walking in the rain and one of my brothers drove by and threw out $200 out the window and called me a prostitute. Meanwhile, he's making that money off my music. So, you know, and that's a part of the humiliation ritual. The more they humiliate me, the more honor they have because it's this opposite and equal reaction magic that they're playing with. So for all of us that have been targeted and labeled as crazy and we're the scapegoat, and all of us that are even to this day, if you go back to your families or to your abusers or to your friends or whoever it was that slandered you, they have a whole list of things to say that are lies, and we can't take it anymore. We just have to say, that's not true, and I'm not going to take it upon myself. That first you have to recognize I am a victim. I was victimized. Secondly, I'm not what you say I am. I'm not what you did to me. And so if you want to target me, good luck because it doesn't affect me anymore. I put myself back together. I developed a whole new life for myself. I have amazing people in my life. I have some of the best people in the world. I'm so grateful. for the people that I have in my life, just good people, loving, dedicated human beings. They're just committed to kindness and compassion and intelligence and peace and understanding and wellness and support. And that's what healed me the most, was a supportive community. And even now, like I just said, you just said all these nice things about me. And it's like you healed a part of my soul. Being on Sean Atwood's channel, it's like my new family. These people gave me so much love and support. I came over from Facebook where nobody could say anything nice to me except for, the people that knew me. People only know what they read on the internet, and my name isn't listed on there, so I'm this crazy white bitch liar, right? People said all kinds of horrible things to me, really nasty, vile things. And then, I turn over here and I do an interview on Sean Atwood's channel and thousands of comments. Zara, we love you. Zara, we believe you. Wow, you look so much like your father. Oh, your father is going to be so proud. He's proud of you. He's smiling down on you. You're doing such a good work. Keep going. And it's like that healed me more than 20 years of re-examining myself. Just a little bit of validation goes a long way. And we have to be able to validate one another as survivors of abuse without triggering one another. We have to figure out what are our boundaries? Where am I safe? And it's okay to say, I'm not safe outside these boundaries. And I can stay inside my boundaries. Somebody maybe wants to say I'm living in a bubble. Well, oh well, that's my bubble. Leave me to it. My bubble keeps me happy and healthy. And I have lived in a bubble for the last 20 years. I don't watch TV. I don't read the news. I don't know what's going on outside of my immediate community. I don't know all these people that are in the music industry today. I don't know what's going on. I can't tell you like 95% of the stuff that most people know because I have been living in a bubble, but it's that bubble that healed me. And whatever your bubble is, or maybe it's no bubble at all, you only that person can decide for themselves what their boundaries are going to be. And you just have to take care of yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to go back to that broken child if you were a child or whatever age you were, for me, a baby, and you have to comfort and soothe yourself and just say, it's okay. I love you. You're safe now. You have to put yourself back together and you have to decide what boundaries are good for you and you have to find safe people and we have to just slowly start building ourselves back up individually and together as a community.
And everything that you just said is so empowering. And I wanted to touch on another topic that I personally was deeply inspired hearing you talk about. And goes along with everything you just said, the music industry, survivors. One of the things that victims are told, whether they're signing a contract or whether they were in one of these sadistic rituals, is you sold your soul. You are damaged. You can never get that back. You sold your soul and now you belong to evil, and evil is always going to have a hold on you. You can never get that back. And so somebody's agency is just all of a sudden just stripped from them and given to this thing that has all the power all of a sudden that they can't even see, and that person feels so devalued. And even when they're healing, that's what comes up is you sold your soul, you're a bad person. And I wanted to hear, your book is called Reclaim Your Soul, that's coming out, and you have just such a beautiful way of empowering people with sort of this mythical statement that is thrown around all the time, like I said, in different industries and in different abuse situations. And I wanted to give you some time to speak on that.
Well, thank you. It's so important because, like I said, the soul belongs to God. It can either be bought or sold, right? We know the devil is a liar. So what's the first lie? You think he has the power to take your soul or that you have the power to even give it away? What happens is you disconnect yourself from your soul. You turn away from your soul. You stop, you know, connecting with it. So to reclaim your soul, you just turn back to yourself. The path of healing is a journey back to yourself, your true self. You're a divine spark of eternity. You're a being of light. The body is the clothing that you're wearing. And that light is made up of the divine cosmic fabric from, in my opinion, from the source, from the Most High. But I'll tell you what the sickest thing is they get people convinced into thinking that Satan is God and that evil is good. They have them so twisted up that they think they're so manipulated in this program of, you know, okay, so I can tell you what I can break it down for you exactly. So what they believe is that, like they're all one. Okay. there's only me, and everyone is just a piece of me. And so I'm not really hurting another person. I'm hurting another piece of me. So it's true that we all have a divine spark of eternity, and that is the same cosmic fabric. My spark is the same as your spark, is the same as his spark, is the same as her spark. Okay. But we all have individuality. We are all individual vibrations. We all have individual memories and soul paths and journeys. We are all individuals. So when you play around with this opposite and equal reaction magic or some of these new age, I am one with everything thing, that's the most unhealthy thing you can do. You have to carve out an existence for yourself. This is me and this is my vibration and I matter. And that is somebody else and that is their vibration and they matter. If I hurt them, I'm not just hurting another version of myself. I'm not using them to feed off of them. So these people are actually taught that what they're doing is okay and that it's good. And some of them believe it, but then they realize at some point they're just filthy and miserable because there's consequences for playing with these energies. It's a whether you believe in God or not, you're breaking cosmic laws of energy. I would love to talk about cosmic laws of energy because some people they get into transcendental meditation or they get into lucid dreaming or they do these going outside your body and exploring things, which is a wonderful thing to do. Or even people that self-soothe, which is another word for masturbation. They think they can think whatever they want. They're not really hurting anybody. They're not really doing it, right? But you're wrong. There's cosmic laws of energy. So whether you are in a transcendental meditation or you're spirit walking or you're lucid dreaming or you're self-soothing, your thoughts matter. And you can't go around thinking impure things and doing things even in the spiritual realm and go, well, I'm not doing it in the physical realm, so it's not real. It's real. Oh, it's very real. And you have to be very careful not to cross those lines. So you have to understand that as you are one whole person, so is everybody else. Don't break them, not even in your thoughts, not even in imaginary people that you think don't exist in your fantasy world. It's very important that you remember that everything has consequences. So they're tricked into thinking that they're not really hurting anybody. So there are people that are completely into it and they love Satan. They love this whole thing. They think they're really winning because they have a nice car and a beautiful house and all the money in the world. But what are they doing to get it? What do they have to do to feel good? And how are they going to feel when they wake up and realize, no, motherfucker, you actually hurt that child. You actually hurt that person. That person is hurt, and you will have consequences on your soul. You're not getting away with it. You might get away with it in this realm. There's so many things that people could do, and they get away with it in this world. But in the end, all of our souls get weighed, measured, and judged. And you will have to deal with the consequences of your choices and your behavior inescapably by the hand of God.
Absolutely. And that's such an empowering way to look at it, for the victim that you didn't give a part of you away. You turned away from it and it's been there all the time. You can turn right back to it. You don't have to try to steal it or get it back from somebody else that took it from you or,
You don't have to continue to throw yourself away.
yes.
Even though I know people, I'm telling them all the time, I'm so sorry you chose to throw yourself away. You were worthy of so much more. So stop throwing yourself away.
Absolutely. And if it's okay with you, I know you agreed to come on again, so I want to take some time on other episodes and like do some deep dives with you and we'll kind of see where this goes. But I feel like we did a pretty good job covering sort of an overview. And before I
Yeah.
worked with you, I had put out on my social media, I asked if people had questions for you. And I thought it would be kind of fun to get some answers from you for some of these questions for this last part of the show. And then I'd love for you to come on and we can answer more questions and then we can dive deeper into some of the other things that we were talking about today. Is that okay with you?
It's a great, fantastic. So I love questions. And here's what I've come to know through experience. People are tired of just listening. People have something to say. People have questions. People want to be heard. So on like the podcast that I'm going to be doing, and the Women's Warrior Table, we're going to be doing a lot of call-ins. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear what your experience is without the triggering part. We want to hear what ideas you have, what solutions you have. We can't keep swirling the toilet bowl. We have to, at some point, what is the next step? Okay, we've been abused, we've been broken, we're traumatized, and we think probably beyond repair. But how do we start moving forward and stop swirling the toilet bowl? So people need to be heard. People have questions. We have to engage everyone. Everyone's voice matters. Everyone's experience matters. And that goes even to you bitch ass motherfuckers that lied about me, even to you horrible people that did horrible things to me. If any one of them, except for maybe one person, which I might not ever forgive, the betrayer of betrayers, but if even the people that hurt me came to me and said, wow, I am so sorry, I need help, I might not be the person to help them, but I would say, I bless you on your journey to evolve, to heal yourself, and to stop hurting people. Like even the abusers can evolve, they can reclaim their soul, and their voice matters too when they make that decision to turn around, to make amends, to repent for what they're doing. So if their voice matters, how much more so does the innocent victim's voice matter? Or even just the people that are in the world, and we're all victims. It's a sadistic system that we live in. There's nobody that's untouched in this system. We've all been abused. Just because we're not living in our highest divine self of pure consciousness, you're a victim. You've been chained to the rat race. You've been dumbed down with your education. You've been fed poison. Every single one of you is a victim, and every single person's voice matters, including the people that committed wrong. But they have to be dealt with separately. You know what I mean? Like it's so much easier to deal with other people's abusers than it is to deal with your own. I can deal with Sean Combs because he didn't hurt me. But the person that hurt me, and everybody in my family knows exactly who she is. And I have told her, if I ever see you, I'll break every bone in your body, set you on fire at a fucking police station on a live, and go to jail like a boss and do my time. Because this person is still hurting people to this day. And she's hiding from me. And she's smart to hide from me. Because I'll be more than, like you talk about, I'm a peaceful person. It's easy to deal with other people's abusers, but to deal with your own abuser, it's very difficult. So, but everybody's voice matters when they choose to say, I want out. I was manipulated. I was abused. I became the abuser. I don't want to do this anymore. I want out. Their voice matters too. So what I'm saying is, if their voice matters, how much more so do the people that are innocent, that are waking up and realize, I went to a party to be free and have fun, and I ended up violated. I was just a child and my uncle violated me, or my father was exploiting me, or whatever. So the innocent victim's voice are the purest and have the most, you know, importance in being heard and in rebuilding a new society. But we have to also remember that we have to make a safe space. It doesn't have to be connected to me. I don't honestly ever want to see my abusers. It's not safe for them. But I can deal with other people's abusers. I could be a great counselor, Sean Combs, and help him walk through his whole mess because he didn't abuse me. But you bring the people that abuse me to the table, I'm gonna set it on fire. I'm not that healed. I don't think I'll ever be healed. Nobody should ever be that healed. Nobody should have to face their abuser and say, "Oh, I forgive you." Fuck you. It's not for me to forgive you. Go forgive yourself and go become a better person. Stop hurting people. So I'm not as nice as you think.
But you still have the biggest heart, and the help that you're giving to survivors is just invaluable. And I wanted to start some of the questions with a couple comments that people made that were really empowering to you. So somebody says, please tell her we think she's so courageous and amazing for sharing her journey with us, and hope for her continued success with recovery and reclaiming her personal sovereignty. Sending all the love. Somebody else said, let her know we care about her. And then another person says, thank you so much for this. This is so much better than anything on TV. It's actually real. And then somebody said that you're an inspiration. And in the mix of all this encouragement that we got, I also had some really intriguing and interesting questions and very compassionate questions that people were curious and wanted to know. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you was a girl named Allison. wanted to know how's she doing today? What approach is she taking to reclaim her life? Does she still live in fear?
I never lived in fear. I'm not normal though. They never managed to get me to fear them. I'm afraid of no one. There's not one person in this world that can put fear into me. Not one. God will take my soul when he wants it.
I love that. And it shows with how you approach these things. Like you are very fearless in your attempts to speak out and, you're never speaking in a place of fear, but in a place of hope and a place of love and in solutions. So that's amazing that you've been able to live that way. How have
But
you?
wait, I want to add to it. My
Yeah.
father was never a man who lived in fear. He was shot in his own home and chose 2 days later to go on a stage in front of thousands of people. Anybody could have finished the job, and he was not afraid. He was told not to do it, and he was not afraid. So let's give credit where credit is due. It must be in my genetics, because my father was never afraid either. I have the spirit of my father with me.
Somebody, speaking of your father, had asked, what memories does she have of her father? What would society be surprised to know about him?
He was a really humble guy, and he never considered himself to be married. Never. People said that he cheated on Rita. He never considered himself to be married. There's video testimony where he says that he never married Rita. Rita's his sister. Um, he was just like a fully present person. He would talk to people as if they mattered, no matter who they were. He would go back to the ghettos of where he came from, back to Trenchtown, and just be with the people. But I think everybody kind of knows that about him. I think, what could I say that people don't know about him? I've got quotes that he said to me that you don't read about except for when I'm writing them. One of them is, I already said in this interview, one man can't fix what a million men broke. And I can tell you why he said that to me, what was going on when he said that to me. I was sitting with him. My father was a very deep thinker, and he never spoke to me like I was a child. He always spoke to me like I was a fully aware old soul, fully present. So he was sitting there, and he wasn't just thinking about like he would think about like how to break out of the rat race. Not just what the rat race was, but like how do you break out of it? And I remember he was just sitting there. Now, I don't speak patois, and people say, "Oh, I should speak patois because my father is Bob Marley and I should at least try and I should learn." Well, I've tried to speak patois and I sound like the biggest cultural appropriator. I sound ridiculous. And I'm going to prove it right now. When I say the things that my father said, I'm translating them into how I speak. But the way he said one man can't fix what a million men broke, I was sitting next to him and he was, thinking, and we were talking, and we were quiet for a little bit, a few minutes. And then all of a sudden he was just like, yeah, one man can't fix what a million men broke. Seen? So imagine that in a real patois voice, in my father's voice. So he was just like, yeah, one man can't fix what a million men broke. Seen? Like he had an awareness. Like it's just one man can't fix what a million men broke. And that stayed with me. It takes all of us together, honestly and truly. Every person matters. Everyone is a piece of the puzzle. So he also said to me when I was in Germany, you can't fulfill your destiny when your identity is hidden. You cannot fulfill your destiny when your identity is hidden. He didn't want my identity hidden. And it's not even just me. There's other people in the family that are not his, and they're hiding their true identity. So they're never really fulfilling their real purpose, their real calling. If they're constantly living in a fake vibration, having to pretend to be someone else, then how could they honestly align themselves with themselves and fulfill the calling that they have on their soul? And I'm not afraid to speak about it. My brother Stephen, his father is Mortimer Plano. He knew it. My father knew it. Everyone in the family knows it. People in Jamaica know it. And Mortimer Plano was the leader of the Rastafarian movement in Jamaica, and he was Ras Plano. He was this amazing being. And instead of getting with your own vibration and being who you are and opening up the gifts that the ancestors have that are speaking to you through your own DNA and your own spiritual path, he is putting on a fake shell of a vibration that doesn't belong to him. And I'm not saying that Bob's not his father, because Bob raised him. And Bob raised all of these kids that were not his as his own. He loved them and raised them as his own. I'm not discrediting their relationships. Okay. I have never once discredited the relationship with my father had with any of these children that were not biologically his. So who do they think they are to discredit my relationship with my father when I actually am his? But my point is, Stephen was raised by Bob. Bob is his father, but biologically, Mortimer Plano is his father. And by him being forced into these identity games, which he actually did not want to go along with, there was a time when he wanted to come out and tell the truth when he was a teenager that Mortimer Plano was his father and that Bob was my father so that we could be together because Joseph is my son, my biological son. Okay. Now people say I can't say that. I've been threatened for saying it. So I say, okay, let's all have DNA tests and let's find out exactly who's who. So it's a sensitive subject, but I'm not bringing it up to hurt him or to humiliate him. I won't participate in these humiliation rituals. I'm not going to feed it. I'm bringing it up because what a great honor it is to be raised up by Robert Nesta Marley and to have the genetics of Ross Mortimer Plano. He has a whole nother lineage. And Mortimer he knew that Stephen was his son, and he was actually heartbroken. He wanted to give his whole lineage to him, and he didn't. And that lineage pretty much died with Mortimer. He had other sons, but they didn't pick up the lineage. So Stephen is throwing away his whole lineage, throwing away his connection to his ancestors, throwing away his spiritual gifts because he's putting on a fake mask, a spiritual mask, pretending to be someone he's not. So when my father said, you can't fulfill your destiny when your identity is hidden, he wasn't just talking about me having my identity hidden as the daughter, the biological daughter of Bob Marley. He was talking about the other children that are pretending to be something they're not. And I think that if all of us just kind of accept who we are and deal with it, whether it's, considered to be good or bad or a blend of both, you can't really heal yourself if you're pretending to be somebody else. So one man can't fix what a million men broke. You can't fulfill your destiny when your identity is hidden. I have a lot of these gems that my father said to me that, you don't hear about in the world. I have a lot to say about my father. He was an amazing man. And he wasn't perfect. He was a man. Some people say he was a prophet. Some people even say he was God. My father was, in the end, especially, he became aware of some idolatry that he had kind of participated in unknowingly. Um, and he was completely against idolatry. And right now, my father's being idolized, and he didn't want to be an idol. And there's even, I think, a video I saw once where they asked him, they said, "Oh, are you a prophet?" And he was like, "A prophet? Nah, man. Like, don't touch me with that. Like, why would I want to be a prophet? You can open yourself up to prophecy. My father could prophesize, but that doesn't make him a prophet. And he didn't want to be a prophet. He just wanted to be a regular, guy, and to share his gifts with the world. So in my book, I have a book that's just about my father and me and my relationship with my children in the happy times. It's called So Much Love to Give because my father had so much love to give. And the other book, Reclaim Your Soul, and the sequel to that, Escaping Sadism, Healing and Recovery. Reclaim Your Soul is basically just about what's going on in the system and how we can kind of escape it. But Escaping Sadism, Healing and Recovery is more like how do we heal and recover. Healing and recovery are two different things. We can heal ourselves, but we're not fully recovered until we've entered back into society or created a new society. So anyway, but the book about my father is So Much Love to Give, and because he had so much love to give. And I have so many amazing things to say, not just about my father, about my Uncle Peter. We haven't even begun to talk about my Uncle Peter, Peter Tosh. He was brilliant. He said some things to me that I'll never forget. Like, if I may say something now, he said to me, people think that they know how to think, but they're not thinking. And like when you say that to a little kid, you just think it's like a riddle, like, okay, that's cute. No, people think that they know how to think, but they're not thinking. And his example that he gave me when I was a child, I was a very young child, and I'll never forget. He said two things. One, I'm not going to talk about right now because it's not really relevant. But the other thing was he said that fallen angels, it's an oxymoron. An angel doesn't have free will, so how can it fall? An angel doesn't have free will. How can it rebel against God? So people think that they're thinking, but they're not thinking. So there's these lies that are right in our face, like that you can sell your soul, or this whole idea that Satan came from a fallen angel. There's all of these things. So whether it was my father or my Uncle Peter or some other people in my life that were really wonderful, my Uncle Alan, there were people that contributed to my life in ways that were very, very positive. And so I'm writing all that good stuff in So Much Love to Give. And then all the stuff that has to do with what's going on in the music industry and how it's a sadistic system, that's going to be in the other books. So I love to talk about my father. I can honestly just talk about him all day long. He was a great man. And, he didn't just he refused to submit to the sadistic influences. And he didn't just lose his money, his career, his family. He lost the calling upon his soul. He had a big calling upon his soul. He was completely committed to the people. There's video evidence. My father said, my life is for the people. If my life is not for the people, I have no life. So he lost the calling on his soul. And all this work that he wanted to do, it didn't get done. And unfortunately, my siblings didn't feel it was important enough to actually be an authentic legacy. What is the legacy of Bob Marley? What should it look like? Should it look like having $600 million in the bank and living this lavish lifestyle while the people are not given the tools that they need to sustain themselves? So, if I may, just real quick, I'm working on a organization called Bless Up My People to honor my father, and we're going to be fixing up the greenhouses in Trenchtown. We have food programs to eliminate food insecurity. We have all of these programs, a traveling music and arts program that's going to go around to, the impoverished places in Jamaica, give children musical instruments, give them arts and crafts and free lessons, and to restore their sense of dignity. We have to give them back their self-worth. They were stolen from Africa and they were left and abandoned in Jamaica. My father, because they didn't make it to the other places where they were sold as slaves, they were slaves awaiting to be sold. They got abandoned once. My father came along. He was taking care of probably, from what I understand, I heard different things from 40 to 400 different families. He gave this great big promise that he was going to bless up the people, and then he passed away, and his wife, Rita, didn't do any. She cut out all the giving. She cut out a lot of people. She cut out the people that helped build my father's foundation. The music that we listen to, whether it's from the Wailers or the I3s or some other people like myself that contributed to this music, we got completely discarded and didn't get what we deserve. My father took care of all the musicians when he was alive. So for them to have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank while people aren't getting their fair share, my father would never tolerate that. And if I could speak so honestly and boldly, if my father was here right now, he would disown a lot of these people that are saying that they are the legacy of Bob Marley. What should the legacy of Robert Nesta Marley look like? Well, it's not having $600 million in the bank while people go hungry. Sorry. I'm not in agreement with it. So I'm starting this thing called Bless Up My People. And hopefully, I have no money for myself. I don't have a dollar for the bus on most days. And I live off of a lot of charity and I live off the government. And that's the truth. But uh, if I can make them hundreds of millions of dollars, I can make me hundreds of millions of dollars too. But I'm not looking for a mansion and a fancy car. You know what I mean? So I want to do the things that my father wanted to be done. And that's honestly what's one of the things that's driving me the most is to honor him. and to pick up where he left off and finish what he started.
Thank you for answering that. And on the same topic of him, somebody asked, does she think they ever tried to induct her father into, and kind of a funny play on words, the Illuminati? And then they said, what does she think happened to him at his death? And then they said, no investigation. So kind of a threefold question, but
So,
theories
first
on.
of all, the Illuminati is a puppet show. The real statists will never let you see their face or know their names. Okay, so when you talk about the Rothschilds and the 13 families and the Rockefellers, look, they're evil people, but they're evil puppets. Okay, the whole satanic show, it's a puppet show. The people that are controlling this whole thing, they call themselves statists. So, absolutely, they tried to get my father to participate, and he refused. And I don't want to say any names, but you can do some research, and I can give you some links for people like Bunny Livingston Whaler, who spoke about what was really going on and whose hand was in not just taking my father's life, but taking my Uncle Peter's life. And then there's my Uncle Peter's wife, who was shot in the head twice and survived when he was brutally murdered. And people want to say it was over a dispute over land. No, he also refused to submit. That's why he didn't blow up in the music industry. They tried to loop my father into it, and he absolutely refused. Get the hell out of here with that shit. Are you mad? Gonna hurt a child? There's some people that just cannot bend. And it's not just because my father's Robert and Esther Marley. So many of us are just beautiful, divine lights, and we just cannot submit to evil. And we're the ones that get abused. They're the ones that they pick and choose us, and they try to, inject their wickedness into us. And we don't submit. We can't submit. We have these bright souls. There's a whole tribe of us. And then, they do everything they can to make us think that we're crazy. They make us self-gaslight. They slander us and sabotage everything we do. And we're just all out there scattered, trying to put ourselves back together, trying to understand what the fuck just happened to our life. And in the end, we will survive. We will put ourselves back together, and we will put our communities back together, and they will not win. Why? Because lies are fake. They're not real. They're made up. They don't really exist. So if you're going to build your foundation on falsehood, you will crumble in. You will fall. I don't need to do anything to make it fall. Okay, we don't have to push them over. They push themselves over. We just like we have to turn back to our souls, we just turn away from them. We just stop feeding them. We start feeding ourselves. We start giving good material for our children. We start healing one another up, being there for one another as a wholesome community. And even if it's fractured and it's all over the world, eventually, once you start raising the consciousness and the vibration of the people, then we're all going through awakening. Everyone's talking about it, but it's not just consciousness. We have to break the chains of poverty. As long as people are impoverished and living in their living conditions are horrible, that we have a very low vibration going on the earth. One of my projects is to get rid of every slum in the world. I have a song called Slum by Slum. We have to eradicate all of this. We have to balance out and redistribute the wealth. We have to bring this world back into balance. So my father was absolutely uh threatened, intimidated, controlled, and even, taken advantage of in a lot of ways. And he refused. And that's why he's not here. And I've had people say to me, oh, nobody would ever touch your brothers because they're Bob's children, so they would never get involved in this. Are you kidding me? They touched Bob, so why wouldn't they touch his children? You know what I mean? If they weren't afraid of Bob, what makes them think they're afraid of the kids? And I know that there's people in my family that have been absolutely abused, and I feel sorry for them to some degree. I felt a little bit more sorry for them before, but to know that they know that I am alive now. At first, I thought, well, when I reached out to them after 30 years, I gave a sample of my DNA, not to prove that I'm Bob's, because that was already proven, but to prove that it's me, because I was gone for 30 years. I walked away without telling them a single word, not one word. I packed up some shit, and within like a very small amount of time, I just broke out. So, now that I know that they know I'm alive, and they don't care that I'm in poverty after everything I've done for them and everything I've given to them, they can ignore me. All right, you can get your soul sorted out. I'm moving forward. I'm sorry it's without you. So I care to some degree. I would love for everyone to reclaim their soul, but I don't have to be involved in that process. And that's something that I was saying before we left. I don't have to be involved in the process of the people of them, healing themselves, the people that hurt me. It's very difficult. And a victim should never be required or expected to forgive or forget or to be a part of that person's healing process. If these people that were hurting us came forward and said, I really want to heal myself, I want to get out of it, I wish you the best. I hope that you can find a system that really helps you. I'd like to help design the system that helps you, but I don't want to have anything to do with your healing process. It's very unhealthy for a victim to have to help their abuser heal. No, go figure that shit out on your own. But for people that didn't abuse me, I could help somebody else's abuser because I don't have that personal memory and relationship of being harmed. So, wow, I get off track so easily. So my father was absolutely manipulated, and um, they tried very hard to get him into the Illuminati, but he didn't. And also with my Uncle Peter, and there are recorded stories of other people that are very well known and famous that have spoken out about it. And I can give you links for it for people that want to read it. They talk about exactly whose hand was in on it. And I'm not going to say it because then it's could be considered character defamation. And I have spoken to lawyers and I've even spoken to other legal authorities to find out what are my legal rights and what I can say and what I can't say without, throwing myself away. So it wasn't one person. Okay, so you had like the whole story about the some kind of like needle or thorn. I think it was more of a needle that was in these um soccer shoes. And so when you put it in, it poked him and it had the cancer in him. It was a very aggressive cancer, okay? And they thought for sure that he wouldn't live long with it. But my father was very healthy in the way he ate, in the way he lived, in the way he thought. And so it took him a long time to die. And they wanted him to die quickly. So somebody, and it's been recorded, was putting radioactive ash in his food, and that was the final blow that ended up making the cancer spread and killing him. So there's also stories of the CIA being involved. So I know one of the stories is that my father really wanted to help the people in Africa, and I know this from my father. Okay, he really wanted to help the people in Africa. That was a very big passion. They were going to help him help the people in Africa because it's very difficult to help the people in Africa because these impoverished places are controlled and you can't just go in there and give out food and build them up. So there's all kinds of politics and stuff going on. So they were going to help my father bless up the people in Africa, but they wanted him to be like them and start trafficking and hurting the children. And he refused. So the CIA was involved. And that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I can give you resources where it's been written, uh, other people testifying that they were involved. So what, the CIA is going to investigate itself? The FBI is going to investigate itself? They're not going. They protect themselves. They're everywhere. They're judges. They're lawyers. They're police officers. They're in other law enforcement societies and organizations, and they stick together. And none of them will break the silence because they're all videotaped. Most of them got drugged. This is how it works. Let's say you're a politician and they want you to vote a certain way and you're not going to vote that way. They will drug you. They will videotape you hurting a child, which you would normally never do. You're on the scopolamine and you've been told what to do and you have no memory of it. And then they play the tape for you and say, "Oh, well, I guess if you want, to keep this a secret, you'll vote how we told you to vote." And this has been going on. Like you can't believe the whole world is run on this. So many of these people, would love to come out of it, but they can't. So they don't investigate one another because if you go against them, well, then you're exposed in the most horrific thing. So everyone is stuck into this whole system of abuse. And it's what's running the world. The whole world is in lockdown of this sadistic system.
100%. And that sort of goes along with another question somebody had of how is all this abuse and these networks hidden from the public? And that's sort of
Well,
it. They work
they're
together.
not really hidden anymore. I mean, look, the social services. Does anybody have anything good to say about social services?
Nope,
Oh, my phone is gonna die. I have to plug it in real quick. Hold on.
no worries.
Oh, there we go. No, I mean I was at like 2%. So, they're everywhere. Okay, so they have nurses that go into the job in the hospitals to take care of the infants, and they're assigning demons to them. And when they're changing their diapers, they're like assigning wicked, unclean, filthy spirits into our children. They're everywhere. You think that they're some kind of weird, creepy people. They're the most polished people. They have manners. They have, education. They act like they're so nice. It's scary. And if you want to know how to recognize them, you can see the demons behind their eyes. You can see they have something lurking, something dark, flickering, something creepy, something that makes your skin crawl. You just feel like, but we're so conditioned to think that we're the crazy one because they're so nice and they're dressed so well and they have such a wonderful way of communication. So, how could we think anything wrong? So we gaslight ourselves into thinking that we're the problem or we're the one that's off or we're just misreading it. But no, they're everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere.
100%. And that there's another question. I'm going to try to piggyback any questions that sort of go along with what you're saying so we can continue the conversation and not skip around so much. Somebody said, what should we look out for in order to identify these SRA abusers?
Well, listen to yourself, build up your intuition, acknowledge how you feel, and don't be ashamed to back out of anything, whether it's a friendship or a relationship or you're supposed to go out with someone or even just someone that a friend like that you think is like a sister. I had some people that are part of this whole sadistic practice that pretended to be my friend, and I totally believed them. And sometimes I had feelings like, like just you see little glimpses of sadism. And I didn't listen to myself. I didn't validate myself. I just thought, well, they put on such a lovely mask. You have to see behind the mask. You have to listen to yourself. In the end, these kinds of people will throw you under the bus and they're just there setting you up the whole time. And the whole time they're smiling in your face, they're going around spreading little rumors and little lies about you so that when you do figure out who they are and what they're doing to you and you try to speak about it, everybody's already against you. They isolate you. Study narcissism. That's what I have to say. The best thing all of you could do is study narcissism because they follow the narcissistic path of behavior like to a T. And they start slandering you before you have. I found out somebody was slandering me 30 years later. 30 years later. I was like, wow, I had no idea. They had turned so many people against me, and I had no idea anything was even being said. I'm in my own little bubble, and so they try to isolate you. They try to, and they stick together. So they know who each other are. Like in a room full of people, only the ones who are awake know who's sleeping. So they're awake and we're sleeping. So they have all of this stuff planned out and we're not aware of it. So it's always too late by the time we come out and try to talk about it because they've already isolated us. They've already got us self-gaslighting. They've already got us ruminating and explaining and defending. They love to make us explain and defend. They do all this stuff and we're just like, no, wait, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And they're like, no, it's 8, 4, 2. And we're like, what are you talking about? And so they get you to waste your energy explaining and defending. And they know exactly what they're doing. They're getting off on it but you don't know they're getting off on it. So listen to yourself, study narcissism, and when you see those red flags, don't be ashamed to back out. You don't have to confront them. Confronting them is something you actually shouldn't do. You just smile, and push away. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm busy. I got stuff going on, whatever you got to do. And just try to back out of any relationships. And it's hard when your relationship, if you find out it's your husband. And that's another thing. Sadists intentionally marry non-sadists. They love doing that. That's something that they do intentionally. So let's just say I'm a part of the satanic cult, right? The sadistic cabal. I will find a man that's absolutely not a part of that. I will marry him. I will have, not me, someone from the sadistic cabal will marry someone who's not, and then intentionally lead them on, start abusing the children, and start turning everybody against that person, making everyone think that person is crazy. And the icing on the cake for them is when that person wakes up and realizes what's been going on. They love that. They're sick. These people are sick. Evil is a sickness, as far as I'm concerned. And like all sicknesses, it can be healed, but you have to do the work yourself. You have to want to escape it. You have to clean yourself out. These people, they fill themselves up with all kinds of filthy, wicked, unclean spirits. And they start getting off on harming other people, humiliating other people. That's why I'm not down with the pretend sadism, the, dress up and have safe words or whatever, because it's a slippery slope. Once you start training yourself to enjoy harming someone, because there is something to it. The opposite and equal reaction, there is something to it. So once you start playing around with that energy, you're really harming yourself. You're removing yourself from purity, from innocence, and so don't get off on harm.
I'm gonna read you another question. Let me find where that was. Somebody wrote, did Zara's abusers have a plan for her? If so, what type of career path did they have in mind for her?
So there's different kinds of abuse. They have some people that they groom just for pleasure. They have other people that they groom for power, and they have other people they groom for spirituality. So I was groomed for spirituality. I was given a deck of tarot cards when I was 9 years old. I was reading the astrologer's ephemeris, which has no words, it's just symbols and degrees, numbers, and I mean I was brilliant. I was so part of my healing process was actually to close down all those channels. I was too psychic. I was too aware. So for me, they used me as an oracle, which is not nice, by the way. People think, "Oh, wow." No, it's not nice. They use you as a channel to pull through things that you don't want to have anything to do with. But the hand of God that was on me, my divine spark, would not let it happen. So they were, hurting me and torturing me to try to break me so that I could be used as a channel because they spent so much time, awakening my already woken spirituality, So, you're not just groomed sexually or to become, a powerful person, whether it's in media or politics or pharmaceuticals or whatever, law enforcement. They train some people for power and they train some people for spirituality. So I was trained for spirituality. And even though I escaped all that, I studied 10 different religions. I have, a philosophical mind, but I really got that from my father. But they can identify which people are going to be more successful in being groomed for pleasure, which ones are going to be more successful in being groomed for power, and which ones are going to be successful in being groomed for spirituality. I mean, just look at all the priests that are hurting children. How did that happen? You have people that have infiltrated all of their religions. All of the religions have been infiltrated with people that are sadists. And so they are groomed, especially if they come from a sadistic family, they are identified by their energy and who they are, and they're groomed for certain positions. So, I mean, I should have been, if they didn't groom me, I should have been the most famous songwriter in the world. I'm Bob Marley's biological daughter. I won my family all of those Grammys. I wrote all that music and they know I wrote all that music. And I'm now part of my healing process is I'm taking credit for all the work I did. And you don't like it, you can take me to court and we can, they can't shut me up. I've come out publicly now for quite some time. And, even just like an example, the Sean Atwood show. He doesn't just take on people running their mouth. It was like my publicist had linked me up with them, and it was like a month and a half before they invited me on the show. And I'm sure that he had looked into me because he's saying Bob Marley's biological daughter. Why isn't he getting a cease and desist order? Why isn't he, getting shut down? Because they can't shut me down. I can prove it. It was already proven. Then, not just in music, I write children's books. I used to be a singer, but somebody had hurt my throat very seriously, um, out of anger, rage, and jealousy. And I should have been so many things. So many things. First of all, a philanthropist. I'm worth hundreds of millions of dollars and I don't have a dollar for the bus. If I had that money, I absolutely would go around and build programs to eliminate food insecurity, to break the chains of poverty. And even if I can't break them, to at least loosen them and give people back their dignity and their self-worth. My destiny, I mean, there's so many things I could have done. I think I would have made a lot of changes to the world, and hopefully it's not too late. Hopefully we can all come together and we could all make these changes. I'm not giving up. Story's not over until it's over. And as long as I'm breathing, my story's not over.
And speaking of that, somebody asked, what things does Zara do for herself to heal? Does she have any spiritual beliefs or practices that have helped her along the way?
Yeah. I'm kind of a woman of the sea. So for me, one of the most healing things is going to the sea, swimming, also swimming like offshore swimming and surfing, also collecting seashells. For every seashell I pick up, I say thank you. I say it in different language. I say Baruch Hashem, Alhamdulillah. Like I say whatever, like just comes through my spirit. Um, praise God. So for every seashell I pick up, it's like I acknowledge that it once housed life. And so then I bring them home and I make things with them. I make seashell necklaces, I make frames, I make like all kinds of artwork from seashells. And it's one of the most healing activities for me. It keeps me focused on gratitude. I don't sell anything that I make. I give them out as gifts of gratitude. And so that helps me a lot. I've always been into meditation, singing and dancing. I'm a real nature girl, which I go to nature parties, which I guess you guys call them outdoor raves. So, I like techno music, just, dancing really hard and just, stuff like that. I've lived off grid a lot. I love blending with nature, not having electricity or running water, but I'm also really learning to love technology. I'm learning a lot now and I'm really, really appreciating technology. I'm an artist. Um, of every kind of art. And I use the Tibetan singing bowls. I've studied 10 different religions, but I am Jewish and I really love Judaism. If you see, people don't really understand what Judaism is unless you're actually a Jew and studying it. Um, there's so many different layers to it, and I just find that it really aligns with who I am and how I want to live my life. And right now, I'm actually in school. I've been taking classes 5 days a week, 3 classes a day. Each class is an hour. And I'm learning about the deeper mysticisms of Judaism and how to apply them to your life, how to use it to go deeper inside myself and create a healthier foundation within myself, how I relate to myself, how I relate to God, how I relate to other people in my life and to my community. It's a very physical based application of deep spiritual Jewish mysticism. So I've studied the Quran. I wore hijab, prayed in Al-Aqsa, studied the Quran in Arabic for 7 years. I was in a Christian seminary uh, for 2 years and studied, the Christian philosophy. I studied the 5% religion with the Wu-Tang Clan, and read the lessons. But when it came to that part about getting the pin, if you know, you know, that's where I said, no, thank you. I'm not into that. Um, I've studied all the Eastern religions, Buddhism, Hinduism. I love religion and I love religious philosophy. And I even, have friends that are like absolute atheists, and I love getting into conversations with them about what they think and how they feel. So part of my healing process is just expanding the mind, getting to know people. I think is also very healing. Is stop being so all about you, which I do very well. I'm very much in my own bubble, but coming out of that bubble and starting to like learn about other people and what their experience in life is and hearing what their perspective is and not having any attachment to it like, oh, you don't believe what I believe, away with you. No, I want to know what people's path is, what their life is, what their experience is, how they think, how they feel, what their customs and their cultures is. And I find all of this is very, very healing, learning about other people's, you know, culture and food and music and dance. For me, it's just life, coming back to life. They tried to take the life out of us. They tried to bring us over to the dark side. They tried to shut us down. So, how to heal from that? Return to life. And whatever it is that works for you, embrace it.
Great answer. And again, it's so inspiring, gives people hope to hear what's on the other side of that and like where you are today. And of course, it's a journey, but it's refreshing to see people healed enough that they can come forward and talk about this now in a very candid, healed, and concise way.
Working on
Break
it.
it down.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm healed and I have something to contribute. I am absolutely working on my healing, and there are places in me that
Right.
are deeply broken that might stay broken for life. You don't escape your trauma.
Right.
It's not something that goes away. You just learn how to carry it. You learn how to identify it and say, well, that's not me. And to fill up that broken space with, you know, yourself. It's a process. I can be doing so great on some days, and other days I can't go outside because I'm afraid I'm going to jump in front of a bus. You know what I mean? Like, not really, but you know what I'm saying? You just have these days where you're like, all right, I can't deal with the world, and I just have to be inside and clean myself out because the thing is that they it's intentionally happening or it's just a natural process. Trauma doesn't stay in your conscious mind. It doesn't go to the subconscious mind. It goes to the unconscious mind. And when the unconscious mind starts to come up to the subconscious mind, you start to feel like something's wrong and you're not, it's just, you just don't feel right. You're not in a good place. You can't, whatever. And then when it comes to your conscious mind, you have to be prepared how to deal with that. Number one, you have to recognize that's not me. I'm a victim. And what they did to me, that I just have to reject it. That's not me. Would I ever do that to a person? Absolutely not. There's so many people out there that became abusers, and originally they would never even dream of doing something like that to a person. And I do have a soft place in my heart for these kind of people. And I would like to create some kind of new therapy and facilities that can help people because if we, like you said before, if they had a safe place to come to, so many people would come out of it.
100%. Somebody else asked, does she resonate with quote unquote one love and the messages of her father's music?
My father's music is probably the most healing thing in the world, and it's prophetic. It's absolutely prophetic. When I hear it, I'm like, it just totally applies to my life and my situation. My father was an open channel, and he was a very uh, deeply connected to the Most High spiritual being, and he just, you know, was absolutely amazing and prophetic. The music that he left behind will live forever because there's a touch of God in it. My father absolutely believed in God. My father believed in God so thoroughly. He dedicated his life to the search of understanding God, applying God to his life, not just reading about it, not just talking about applying God to your life. And that's what I'm learning now in the Torah school that I'm in. I'm in one of the best schools in the world, and it's free. I don't have to pay for it. And they pay for my transportation. And it's such an honor. And these are people I've known for 20 years, you know. Um, it's just amazing. I have so many blessings in my life. And they don't know that I'm Bob's. I mean, some people do. My closest friends know that I'm Bob's daughter, but most people in my life don't know. My best friends in America didn't know. I was so committed to keeping this secret because I was the savior of the family. I was defending and protecting the family. And between that and of course, the scolopamine and the witchcraft and the spells of amnesia. But when I was aware, and there were people in my family that used to constantly remind me that I was Bob's daughter. I was told I was not a very well-behaved child because I was hanging out in the streets with the Wu-Tang Clan and people like that. And this was, not a way that the daughter of Robert and Esther Marley should behave. I'm like, why? My father hung out in the streets with the same kind of people. Like, what are you talking about? My father wasn't, putting on very, very expensive clothes and driving around in a nice car and driving right past the people that need help. He was the person that got out of the car and sat with the people that needed help. So, one time I remember saying to my grandmother, which I guess maybe I shouldn't repeat, but she was embarrassed of me. I had just written the song Fighter for Damien Beckett and Damian Marley. Um, and they were upset with me because I guess I was doing some kind of dancing that was provocative. And my grandmother had walked with everybody, the whole family had walked and just didn't even acknowledge me, even though I just wrote this whole song for them. All of it, the drums, the melodies, the whole thing. And you can't even acknowledge me. And you're wearing all these fancy clothing. And I literally got picked up off the streets to show up for this music session. They would have to go find me in the streets. And I just remember saying, like, well, if you didn't want me to act like I was from the streets, you shouldn't have fucking thrown me to the streets then. Like I'm very street. I act like all nice and stuff, and I know how to be proper. But you could take the girl out the ghetto, but you cannot take the ghetto out the girl. I'll tell you that much. I'm straight up ghetto when it comes down to it. So I forgot what the question was. I see I go off.
Oh, if you resonate with your father's music.
I resonate with my father's music. I resonate with his lifestyle. I resonate with his spirit, with his mind, with his heart. He's my father. He's actually half of who I am. I have his blood running through my veins, pumping through my heart. I have his spirit. I'm connected. I fell asleep listening to his heartbeat. I didn't know he was some great, famous musician. In fact, at that time, he wasn't famous. I was born in 1970, but I fell asleep listening to his heartbeat. How many people can say that? I absolutely resonate with my father. And I'm very much like my father. I'm an absolute rebel. I'm not afraid of anybody. Wherever I go in my whole life I'm traveling, the first thing I say, take me to the ghetto. That's the first place I always went. Where are the poor people? I used to walk around with stacks of McDonald's coupons books, 30 years ago, before we knew they were putting human DNA in all the food. Um, so you can buy back in the day, I don't know if you can do it anymore, but like a McDonald's coupon book where you get everything is free, a free Big Mac, a free number four, whatever they were selling, right? So I would go to the homeless people, to the crackheads, to the kids in the street with the buckets turned upside down, doing their rhythms in the street, trying to collect change, and I would give out all these food coupon books. And so, um, wherever I would go, especially when I was on tour with the Grateful Dead, I wasn't looking to go to a nice fancy hotel and a restaurant. I went right to the streets. I went, where are the poor people? And that's something that my father was the same way.
And it shows. You really do carry on his legacy in a really beautiful and authentic way, and we're all really grateful for that. And somebody else had asked, is Zara in contact with any other survivors she went through her abuse with, and are they still
I
alive?
am.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's a struggle. It's a daily struggle. There's someone that at one point I was thrown into this foster home. At first they put me in like a psychiatric thing, and they had lied about me. And so you were only supposed to stay there for 2 weeks for an evaluation, and then they figure out where to put you. And so I was there for 2 weeks, and they said there was nothing wrong with me, but my family wouldn't take me back. They were committed to making me look crazy. At this point, I was about 13 years old, and I had already tried to take my own life when I was 12. And let me tell you, it's not normal for a 12-year-old to want to take their life, so something's going on. But whatever, I'm the problem, right? So they're all, innocent and having a good time. So after 4 months of being in this facility, they had no place to put me. And the people that had adopted me refused to come and take me from there. So they ended up putting me in a foster home. And it was a big foster home and it wasn't nice. I'll just leave it at that. One of the girls that I was in that school with is my friend to this day. And she went through hell and real fucking hell. And I ended up getting sent upstate to the school that I told you about that was for the kids that just refused to submit. And I mean, I was such a rebel. Like I to this day, if you want me to follow authority, you have to make it make sense. If there is a good, reasonable law, I'll follow it. I'm a law-abiding citizen. But if you're just going to feed me some bullshit, some power and control and try to manipulate me stuff, my spirit rejects it. And I just will not, I don't care. You can, throw me away. I'll lose the job. I'll lose the friendship. I'm not being so easily manipulated. I mean, when I was younger, I was very naive and I gave freely, but I'm not submitting to a fake authority. So I got sent upstate. And that was like kind of like, you like there's street cred. Well, this was like in the world of people who were raised by sadists, that was like real street cred, that I had to go to this place. And I had lost contact with this girl. Uh, I lost contact with just about everybody. And the people knew, even, when I tried to find the people that I grew up with, they were like, yeah, we heard, what they remembered was that I got pregnant when I was 14 and they sent me away and they never heard from me again. And so many people were like, wow, I can't believe you're alive. So, so I had went to this school and, I lost track of her. And then I found her through Facebook like 10 years ago. And she's a real strong warrior, let me tell you. She is amazing. And she's not living the kind of life that you would probably want to associate with, all tatted up and an outlaw kind of life, but she's a very pure soul. She's never gonna, you know, commit any harm against anybody. She's a survivor. And we have a very deep connection. And when we get to talk, we have very real, deep talks. And it's very healing to be validated by people that you went through it. It's like you make it through the storm, like I'm also a sailor. I love sailing. I love offshore sailing. So like when you go into a storm and you have a crew on the boat, you're literally hanging on to the ropes for life, and you're trying to, adjust the sails and lower the mast and whatever, you have all these things you have to do to get through the storm and you're holding on for dear life. When you get out of that storm and you're back in the calm and the storm is gone, it's just such a deeper connection you have with the people that you went through the storm with, that you worked and held on with dear life for. So those kind of relationships are, unbreakable, even if you don't talk every day. So yeah, I do. And I also lost three friends that just couldn't deal with it. One was while we were in the school. They said she killed herself, but I know she didn't. And then another guy was found overdosed on heroin, and even though he didn't do drugs, um, so some of it, maybe it's suicide, maybe it's suspicious. They were labeled suicides. Who knows what they really were? And then another person I know that actually did take their life. They had talked to me about it, and they are just like, "There's, I'm never going to escape these memories, and I just have to be free. I cannot live with it. I cannot get out of it. I just, I can't wake up from it, and I just want to be free." And of course, you miss these people, but you're happy for them because they did what they needed to do to be free. And I'm absolutely not advocating that anybody should set their soul free, but it happens. People just say, "Why am I here? I can't live with these memories. They're real. They're inescapable, and I just don't want to be a part of it." And they just leave. That's how they get their peace.
Yeah, and again, going back to a conversation we had earlier, just about how we really fail survivors in a lot of ways by not giving them spaces and validation and like that comfort of knowing that they can get through it. So many are just stuck in that that hamster wheel of not having hope and feeling just so devastated and traumatized and like there's no escaping it, and society
And
will.
then they're ridiculed and they're humiliated and they're told that they're crazy and they know they're not. And it doesn't matter what they do. This happened to me. No matter what I did, they sabotaged me. I would meet people, they would think I was fantastic. I would get a job, they would think I was the best. But as soon as the people that were trying to discredit me would find out what I'm doing, I would lose friendships. I would lose job opportunities. I would lose so many things because they would discredit me. They told lies about me. I'm the child molester. I'm the drug addict. I'm all these things and I'm not. So when you're a victim and you're not just having to deal with the absolute horrific, unimaginable shit that happened to you, and then wherever you go in your life, you're a targeted individual. So they're breaking you down and make sure you don't make healthy relationships, making sure you can't get a job to support yourself, telling everybody you're crazy, having you admitted into these psychiatric wards where you're even further abused and humiliated and degraded. So what's the point? Like, where can I like you say, there is no safe place, and why should I continue to even try? You just really feel hopeless. I absolutely know what that's like.
Yes, and on that note, the last question that I'll ask you for today, and we'll leave it on sort of a high note, is what gives Zara hope right now?
Well, I think I've always had hope. Even though all these things happen to me, I'm a little bit different than most people for whatever reason. I'm sure there's other people like me. I know other people like me, but some of us are just pure lights and you can't put us out. And you can try and you can try and you can try. But when you are connected to that divine inner spark of who you really are, your true identity, it doesn't matter what you do. You can't take that hope from me. So to say to have hope, you would have to be in a place where you don't have hope. And even though a second ago I said you feel hopeless, but even in that hopelessness, you can never really fully give into it because that divine spark gives you hope. So I guess you could say that divine spark has always given me hope. But to take it a step further, um, what keeps me alive is a better question. It's my children. I have a son that was attacked by the police and never recovered. And I do, most of his shopping and he takes care of himself. I don't have to help him with his physical maintenance, but he needs a lot of help and a lot of assistance, and I'm all that he has. And I asked my family for charity because he has broken teeth. He needs like 4 oral surgeries. We can't afford them. He's starving because he can't eat, and I need money to pay for his oral surgeries. And he's got repeated infection after infection, and we can't even afford antibiotics. We're dirt poor. I've given my family hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work and 30 years of an amazing lifestyle. I asked them just to pay for my son's dental records and for mine because I also have really bad teeth, and my daughter also has really bad teeth, and they won't nothing, not a dollar. So shame on them. And I hope that you're listening, and I hope that you feel bad about yourself, and I hope that you turn around and repent and make amends. Putting that aside, I'm all my children have. They don't have anything else in this world. So even on days where if I do want to die, it's not because I don't want to live. It's because I can be free. I don't have to be trapped in this body. I have an awareness of what it's like after life. I don't mind checking out and being gone, but I can't because I have a responsibility to my children. And even though they're all grown, my youngest is 25, they keep me alive. That's my hope, is that I hope to help them, to be there for them. I stay alive for my children.
And they're so lucky that they have you. And it's amazing that you've broken the cycle for them, that they didn't have to grow up in that same
Yeah,
lifestyle for their whole lives. Like a lot of these people spend it, from the day they're born to the day they die, they're in this. And you've worked so hard to like keep your family out of harm's way, even if it wasn't perfect. You've really put yourself out there to put that boundary up and to say it stops here, it stops with me. And you can come after me all you want. I know it's going to
absolutely.
take a couple of generations before it's all gone, but like I'm starting this cycle to break it. And like, you control, you want to harm us, but like, we're going to keep fighting against you. And that's such a wonderful gift to give your children.
Thank you. And I want to remind all the viewers that my children are actually Bob Marley's biological grandchildren. And a lot of these people that are living it up off my father's name and off money that I made them, they're living it up, driving nice cars, having new clothes, eating food every day. Bob Marley's biological grandchildren don't get food every day. Bob Marley's biological daughter doesn't get food every day. So, you know, just putting that out there.
That's horrible. And I ask everybody to pray for this continued exposure and that the truth comes to light and that you are given, whether it's through the family or through people who care about you that find you on the internet and want to support you in all these amazing projects that you're doing, that you become 100% financed and resourced in everything that you could ever want to do. It's the least that you deserve to be able to pay for
Amen.
your basic needs for you and your family, especially after everything that you've not only contributed to your family, but that you're doing now and investing in to help people who went through things similar like you did as children or adults or whenever they experienced abuse. You know, you 100% deserve to be able to do this full time, to do it with health and to not have to worry about, your family and their well-being or not being able to provide for them. So I ask everybody on the other
Amen.
side of the screen to please say some prayers
Amen.
for Sarah and her family.
Thank you. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm making a statement. I'm going to make me hundreds of millions of dollars,
Yes,
just like I make
girl.
them $1 million. And I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to bless up and honor my father and fulfill the calling on his soul. I'm going to pick up where he left off and I'm going to finish what he started. And we have this whole Bless Up the People project. And I'm absolutely going to put money into it. And I'm going to use my platform to call on all these other people out there that got tons of money. And I'm going to say, put money into these programs. They're good programs. And I'm not taking any money from it. And the first thing that we're doing is I've designed some merchandise for Trenchtown, for 9 Mile, for all the places in Jamaica. And everything that's sold goes 100% into these programs. I'm not taking a penny of it. We're setting up my website in the store now. So whoever buys the merchandise that we're selling, whether it's t-shirts or cloth bags or whatever it is that we're making with our logos on it, Bless Up My People. I also have a children's book that I'm writing for my father to honor him. All that money is called Bless Up My People. Um, and all that money is going to those programs. I personally believe in tithing. So 10% of my money, whatever I make, is going to those programs. And I don't have a problem. If I've got hundreds of millions of dollars a bank, I can drop a mill on anything and it doesn't affect me. I'm not looking for a lifestyle. I mean, I'm going to be increasing my level of comfort. Most of my furniture comes from stuff that people threw away. I'm a dumpster diver. I'm sitting here on a chair that has one broken arm and it's so uncomfortable. I haven't had a comfortable chair in like 20 years. I'm living in a very impoverished way. I have like the same pair of sneakers for 6 years and I'm like literally gluing them together. And, like most of my clothes either come from like the $10 store or from the garbage. Um, so I will be taking care of myself, but what do I need with millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars? So I'm making a statement. If I can make them hundreds of millions of dollars, I can make me hundreds of millions of dollars. And with that money, I really absolutely dedicate myself to doing everything I can to create programs to help at the very least loosen the chains of poverty, if not completely break and smash them. That's my commitment to honor my father.
Amen, sister. And for people who do want to support you, who do want to resource you, reach out to you, connect with you, how can they do that online?
Right now, there's no way. There's been a couple people that have wanted to help me, but so I live in a government house and I get a government stipend and I have free healthcare, but it doesn't include dental. So I don't, the kind of bank account I have, you can't put money into it. Nobody can just give me money. It just doesn't work. You can't do it. So I had one lady who's amazing who heard my story. She bought me a laptop. I was literally trying to write these phones. I was trying to write these phones on my book. I was trying to write these books on my phone. And so she bought me a laptop. And so now I'm getting so much work done. Another guy gave me like $300 to go get some food and really blessed us up through Western Union. But I don't have a way for people to give to me. So we're trying to figure out how I can start making money without losing my government assistance and end up in the streets because you know what I mean? Like once I make enough money that I can support myself, then I don't need government assistance. But there's that in between. And anybody that collects government services, whether it's food stamps or welfare or your social security check or whatever it is, you know it's very tricky to get out of the system. And they keep it that way. They want to keep you poor. So if I was to start taking money and lose my government assistance, I have to make sure I'm getting enough money that I can actually support myself. So until I can actually make those big chunks of money where I can just buy myself and my children a house so that we have security, I have to, play by the government's rules. I can't take any chances to really, lose what I have. So it's a very tricky thing right now. People have been talking about setting me up with Patreon and the merchandise that I do sell. I mean, I have no idea, if I'm going to really make any money off of it. I assume I will, but my books aren't coming out as soon as I wanted them to. Um, but eventually I'll start making money. It's like, how do I get from here to there? I know there's a lot of people that would love to just, you know, buy me a coffee, but I don't have a way to really do it. I know that I can by law, I can accept gifts, I can accept food. If somebody wants to buy me something, if people want to buy me like food cards, you can buy them online and I can go to the supermarket and I can get food. There's things people can do. I guess they could buy me a pair of sneakers somehow. I don't know. But people could also, I guess, give me money through like MoneyGram, but I think that's such a waste of money. Like they charge so much money for it and then they take so much out of it. It's like wrong, but I can't have a PayPal or any of that stuff. Now I have a son who's in America. He has a PayPal, but and he doesn't, he works. But like hand to mouth like the rest of us. So I know he's offered to help me like if I set up the Patreon and because I want to start doing videos and stuff and like from what I'm being taught by like Ron and Sean is that I can have subscribers and like the different levels of subscription. So like if you have like the top level of subscription, I can like write you a song or I can give you a reading because I do still do that. Um, but in a very sacred and holy way. Or I can have special videos for people that, private access. I'm still trying to figure it all out. But then that money would go into like the Patreon and that would go to my son. And even though he can't give me that money, he can pay my bills. I'm so far behind on my bills. Like I'm always like in the part where they're giving me notices to turn off my electricity, to turn off my water. Um, we're in so much debt with just like, the absolute basics. So once I start making money, hopefully it'll go to my son and then he can pay my bills for me with that money that I make or with money that people give me or so I have to kind of climb out of this poverty and then once I have real money then I can disconnect from the government services and I can live a normal life and bless up the people because that's why I believe what I'm here to do.
And you mentioned YouTube. What's your YouTube channel name? And then where else on social media are you for people to come follow you?
So I just started a YouTube. I haven't put up any videos yet. I have a lot of podcasts and videos I've done, but I just don't have links on it to my YouTube. But you said you were going to help me with that, so hopefully soon. So it's Ruhawk Zara Marley, and Ruhawk is spelled Ruhawk, Zara Zara, Marley Marley, Ruhawk Zara Marley. And Ruhawk is my kind of spiritual street name. I got a great story behind it. We'll tell you next time. And my Facebook is RU for the first word and Hawk, Hawk, Ruhawk. Um, and that's just kind of like my personal page. I just kind of post about what I'm doing, whether I'm in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or wherever I go. It's just like my personal everyday. I think, yeah, I'm posting some of my children's books on there. I have a children's book that I wrote when I was like, I don't know, 15 years old. And I think that's what you have up on there, the scroll. It goes like this: Earth, water, fire, and air. They are here for all to share. Earth is a rock, earth is a tree. Earth is here for all to be free. Water is rain, it flows to the sea. It waters the garden for you and for me. Fire is hot, it burns on the sun, keeping us warm and shining through everyone. So this is our world flowing with grace. If we don't keep it clean, we'll lose the whole place. Please don't pollute the air, land, or sea. Please keep it clean for you and for me. And so
Oh,
this is, yeah, I wrote that one out. And Richie Havens sung it. I was at a concert with Richie Havens, Arlo Guthrie, and Wavy Gravy and John Sebastian. It was when Wavy Gravy was the ice cream flavor for Ben and Jerry. And I was there when Ben and Jerry asked Wavy if he wanted to be an ice cream flavor. And so then we went on this whole like tour and we had like his ice cream party in Greenwich Village. And then we went to a concert. And so I was hanging out with Richie Havens. He's like an old, folk musician guy. And I was playing with the kids. My son was there, and John Sebastian's sons were there. We were backstage. And so I was telling them the storybook, and Richie Havens loved it. And he just started singing it and singing it. So it's also a song. And so I have 32 children's books, and this is my artwork. And I have something called Pure Soul Creations, where I draw these pure souls. And so that's what's on the screen. So we're putting it on t-shirts, on bags, on posters, also doing kids puzzles and all of my books. So eventually I'm going to have money. It's just how do I get from here to there? Yeah, so that's one of my things that I made. Zara Marley's Pure Soul.
oh. And again, that's for those of you listening, that is just under Rue Hawk, like she said, with a space between it, RUHAWK. You guys can find that on Facebook. And I'm also going to link it below in the show notes. That way you guys, wherever you're at, can just go right below in the show notes, click it, it'll be a hyperlink, and then it'll direct you right from your phone or computer right to her page so you guys don't have to search for it. And
Can you show can you show the picture on my page where the person who is sitting in the nature that's a cloud person? Yeah, yeah, that one. Can you pull that up? That's one of my favorite.
ooh, it is clouds.
I've been drawing this image since I was like I don't know, 12 years old, and I have all different versions of it.
That is beautiful. I love that. And you're right, it is clouds. I couldn't tell whenever it was little, but it is. That is so cute.
Yeah, so I draw these like pure souls, these beings that haven't yet formed their face, and they're just whether they're made of stardust or clouds or flowers or whatever, and they always have some sun or moon and like nature, because I spend a lot of time meditating and just kind of blending with nature, and so I call it pure soul creations. And so, I mean, I'll make some money, it's just getting from point A to point B without ending up in the street. That's the challenge.
Exactly. And you are well on your way. And again, I ask people on the other side of the screen to keep praying and, to keep in touch with her as she does find these different solutions and ways that we can help resource and to do it whenever the opportunity becomes available, because that's what we should want for all survivors and whistleblowers is for them to be resourced enough where they can do this full time and don't have to try to live in the real world and, spend their time doing other things. We really need people on the ground helping society understand all of this, helping survivors. I mean, there's a million full-time jobs that we could give people to do this because there's not enough people. So continue praying for Zara and her family. And Zara, was there anything else that you wanted to share today or to close with before we wrap up?
Yeah, I just want to encourage everyone that there's a future for all of us. And it's not even if you're just like a survivor, just being in the system, you're automatically a survivor. And we have a future. We have a whole new world that we can create where we don't have sadistic material for our children, where our food isn't poisoned, and we can create a whole new kind of awareness and education that can help people that are victims. That also, the victims that never became abusers, to me, are the most sacred and pure people that we have to put first. Those people need the help the most. And then you have, the victims that became abusers. We have to have safe places for them, even if it's some kind of prison, you know, where they can learn to put themselves back together and get help without hurting anybody else. So we can start to develop these programs. We can start educational programs where we can start teaching the therapists and the psychologists and creating a whole new world where we have access to the tools that we need to put ourselves back together, and that we don't have to worry about our children getting trafficked, and we don't have to worry about what are they watching, on the internet, and how are their brains being uh programmed, sadistically. And we can listen to music that's actually full of soul and goodness. I had a cafe called Living Waters Cafe, and it was a Christian themed place, all praise and worship music. Um, we had like youth night for the kids. We had Christian karaoke. We had all this, just like, I lived in a Christian community, so we had all this, like, really high level, like, songs to God, and like this great energy. We can build ourselves up to a place where we're not just victimized by the system and by the music and the movies and everything that's available to us. It's like they don't give us any choices. We have to make our own choices. We have to make our own content. We have to make our own safe places where we can go and be higher conscious people, whether you're religious or not religious. So there's hope for the future if we all work together, if we all realize that one man can't fix what a million men broke, and if we all figure out what piece of the puzzle we are, what we have to contribute, and we all come together, we can create a whole new society within ourselves where we're safe, where our children are safe, where our elders are safe. Our elders are being abused. People don't talk about that. People are just talking about the children. The elders are being abused, whether they're in an elder's home or whether they have a caretaker. There's so much elder abuse going on. And I have such a soft space in my soul for the elders, because they spent their life raising us, taking care of us, working until they're 65 years old. And now they need help and they're being abused. And so I have some programs that help elders as well. I didn't get a chance to talk about it now, but we have a future. And the only way we're going to manifest this future is if we all put ourselves back together individually and then start working on putting our communities back together. Realize that everybody has a gift, everybody has something to say, everybody has something to contribute, everybody needs to be heard, and everybody's a piece of that puzzle. And we can put our piece down and we could become a part of a whole new picture, a
Amen.
sadistic free picture.
Sadistic free picture. Yes. And that's a beautiful note to close on. And so thank you again, Zara, for coming on today. And thank you, listeners, for supporting and for your endless love for every single guest on the show. It is just heartwarming, and we couldn't do this without you. So I'm going to have all Zara's information in the show notes. I'll have all my information in the show notes too. Keep up with me wherever you can. Go follow, support, and lift up Zara. Share this episode with a friend on your social media, wherever you can. Go listen to her other episodes she's done on Sean's channel and other interviews that she's done. She's just a phenomenal speaker. So much information that she's giving out there. So please go dive into everything that she puts out and keep up with her. And so you guys, thank you so much for listening. Bless you all, and we will see you next time.